Chapter 1778. So what is it? Lan Fan tilted his head and asked in a serious voice. It's like spring all year round, blooming everywhere. The petals are frozen in the air, not falling for a long time. Yimu looked at Luo Qingshun after saying this. You've seen this scene before. Luo Qingshun looked at the rain in front of her and narrowed her eyes, as if she could imagine the scene back then. Blooming flowers and falling cherry blossoms. It must have been very beautiful. After quickly eating breakfast, Yimu and Lan Fan walked around with her for a bit. They bought 2 large cups of milk tea and returned to the library. Du Jiusheng stood at the door with a trace of gloominess in his eyes. Seeing her come over, a gentle look couldn't help appearing in his eyes. Although he had heard about her identity and story from 600 years ago from someone else, there was an inexplicable desire to protect her in his heart. Even with Yi Mu and Lan Fan by her side, he was still a bit worried. Big brother, what are you doing here? Lan Fan looked at him and couldn't help teasing him. It can't be that you're worried about my Qing, right? Your Qing? Du Jiusheng looked up with cold eyes. Lan Fan swallowed a mouthful of saliva as he felt a chill run down his back. He quickly changed his words. Young Miss Luo, young Miss Luo. Du Jiusheng didn't seem satisfied with this title, but he couldn't find a better way to refute it. Could it be he should call her sister-in-law? Luo Qingshun pursed her lips into a smile that was hard to hide. She gave the milk tea in her hand to him and said, For you, master. Du Jiusheng heard this and was a bit surprised. There was a faint sparkle in his deep eyes as he looked at the girl in front of him. When she smiled faintly, her clear eyes looked at him like a clear spring. The snow outside stopped and the thick clouds gradually scattered. The sun's rays shone through the clouds, and the dark clouds in his heart seemed to slowly dissipate at this moment. Thank you. Du Jiusheng took the milk tea. His face was still cold, but there was an indescribable gentleness in his eyes. Yimu, standing on the side, couldn't help saying, There's a sudden feeling of nostalgia. The princess always called him Master Jiusheng back then. No, it's not the same. Luo Qingshun turned her eyes and looked at Yimu. She chuckled and said, I know why Master said those words 600 years ago. You can't die because a very important person will appear 600 years later. I saved you because of her. Because of her, because of her, because of her. You're saying that the person Jiusheng mentioned 600 years ago has appeared? Yimu was obviously stunned. After all, Luo Qingshun had vented her anger on Jin Rongfeng because she cared too much about that person's existence. In the end, it led to Lu Qidua's death. I didn't kill Bo Run, but Bo Ren died because of me. The original owner wasn't completely wrong about this. Unhumph. Luo Qingshun looked up at Du Jiusheng. I am that important person. Yimu and Du Jiusheng knit their brows at the same time, looking at Luo Qingshun with deep gazes. 3 seconds later, Du Jiusheng came back to his senses and looked at her. You mean that you aren't the princess from 600 years ago? Yimu heard this and immediately shook his head. How was that possible? The girl standing in front of him was the princess he protected. He couldn't be wrong. Chapter 1779. At that moment, there was a faint light that came in through the window, and there was a faint scent of flowers in the air. The pear tree that was planted in the hall had a few small flowers blooming. The petals slowly fell onto her hair. He slowly raised his hand and took the petals off as he looked at her and emphasized, Don't go out for a few days. If you see anything else, you have to tell me. Understood, master. Without knowing why, when she obediently called him master, he felt a strange sense of satisfaction. It was like he was announcing to the world that she was his and no one was allowed to approach her. With Du Jiusheng and Yimu's protection, adding in the fact that she had been in the library for the past few days, nothing big happened. Until 3 days later, there was a large explosion in S City's chemical factory, killing 31 people and injuring 177. Du Jiusheng, as the messenger of hell, was naturally very busy. When large amounts of undead appeared, Yimu couldn't be by her side. He had to leave for a while until these undead found home. Du Jiusheng gave her to Lan Fan and told her that she wasn't allowed to take a single step out of the library. But that night, Two typhoons swept through S City, and there was heavy rain. After Luo Qingchun had dinner in her room, she went to the bathroom to take a shower. The water was just right, and there was a faint scent of shower gel in the air. But she didn't know that there was a pitiful cry in her ears as she found that she couldn't move. The faucet was still flowing water, and the hot water, which was just right, suddenly turned cold. Bit by bit, it approached 0 degrees. Lawn fan, lawn fan. Luo Qingchun narrowed her eyes as she felt a sense of danger. But the sound of the rain outside was too loud. She was in her own room, so Lawn Fan couldn't hear her at all. So the death she had foreseen was in her own room. The water that was close to 0 degrees slowly went over her neck, her chin, and her mouth. The bone-chilling coldness reached her heart, and she felt that her brain was about to go numb. Her body couldn't hold on any longer as it slid down. But her hands still couldn't move. Damn! She bit her lip and forced herself to stay awake. The low temperature gradually made the scene in front of her blur. She felt her back slip, and she sank down with a dong sound. The ice-cold water instantly poured in her mouth, nose, ears. The feeling of suffocation rushed over her like a tide. Her eyes trembled slightly as she fell into boundless darkness. At this moment, a blue and white light appeared in the center of his right palm, reflecting a familiar word, life. At the same time, at the chemical plant, a group of Hell's emissaries held the nameplates and prepared to take the deceased away from the mortal world. At this time, Du Jiusheng's heart trembled, and there was a flickering light in his right hand. The word Qing was faintly discernible. Han Yue immediately noticed this and grabbed his arm. You can't leave now. If you miss the dead, the consequences will be unimaginable. She was afraid that he would leave his post because of Luo Qingchun. As the emissary of Hell, if he lost the deceased on the nameplate, he would be severely punished. He couldn't do such a stupid thing for Luo Qingchun. Du Jiusheng gave the token in his hand to the Hell messenger beside him before looking at Hong Yu with cold eyes. I'll say it again. This is my own matter. Chapter 1780. Floating up and down, generation after generation. When she was surrounded by the ice-cold water, it was like she was seeing a scene from 600 years ago. Although it was very blurry, one could clearly see a woman in a red palace dress pushing a person into the water. Yimu was right. It wasn't the previous host who killed her. The previous host didn't kill Lu Qi Duo, so the person who went to the death row prison couldn't be the previous host. Although she was a bit arrogant sometimes, she wasn't a ruthless person, but she didn't have a chance to clear things up for her. Actually, she wasn't that sad. She was just a bit unwilling, because she couldn't bear to part with Du Jiusheng. She didn't know how long it would be before they could meet again with this identity. Although he would be by her side in all kinds of identities, Du Jiusheng was different. They had never enjoyed a moment of happiness. They were forever separated by death. This time, she seemed to be the one leaving first. But she didn't know. In an instant, Luo Qingchun felt her body being picked up, and a pure white towel was wrapped around her. She slightly knit her brows, and when she wanted to open her eyes, she was picked up by the waist. Du Jiusheng's cheeks were a bit red, and this red spread from his cheeks to his ears. Actually, at that moment, he saw something. His heart was beating strongly, and there was a warm current that filled his heart. In the bedroom of Du Jiusheng's study, he softly put her on the bed and turned the heater to the highest. She felt a light blue glow around her chest, and her throat tightened as she spat out the water stuck in her throat. Du Jiusheng quickly poured a cup of hot water and came to her side, patting her back as he said, "Are you better?" She held the warm glass tightly with both hands and shook her head gently. This was her first time feeling Du Jiusheng speak in such a gentle manner, with a bit of pampering and worry. Cool. She gave 2 coughs before slowly looking up. Why can he control me? He normally can't. Du Jiusheng slightly knit his brows. He walked to the closet and took out a white sweater to put over her head. Today is different. Woo. Luo Qingchun poked her head out and said, "Is it because of the accident at the factory? I saw the news just now." "Yes," Du Jiusheng said with a nod. "There are too many undead that died in vain, so the energy in the mortal world will be very strong. Jean Rongfeng can take advantage of this. I see. It's my fault. He furrowed his brows and said, I didn't expect that he would have such power to control you here. I think it's very difficult for him. Luo Qingchun thought for a while and said, I can feel that although that force is controlling me, it's not that strong. If it was that strong, she would have already drowned and wouldn't have waited for Du Jiusheng to save her. Of course, this is my territory. Du Jiusheng waved his right hand, and the hairdryer appeared in his hand. The warm breeze blew on her hair. It was very, very warm. If the system was here, it would definitely give her a notification, because she could feel that Du Jiusheng cared about her very much, even though he had never said it out loud. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 10%. Luo Qingchun muttered in a low voice as she revealed a smile that was hard to hide. Du Jiusheng was surprised before replying. What did you say? Luo Qingchun felt her face turn red as she felt an inexplicable shyness. She said with a faint smile, I said, hurry up and blow, it's so cold. Chapter 1781. There was a warm aura in the air, making people feel at ease. The snow outside the window had stopped. A few withered potted plants on the windowsill bloomed with pink flowers. At the same time, in a classically decorated villa, Jean Rongfeng took a sip of red wine and looked at the dazed Lu Qidua in front of him. He glanced to the side, and beside him was a black soul. Water dripped from the soul, and there was a pungent smell in the air. However, Jean Rongfeng didn't care at all. Instead, he curled his lips and looked at her with regret. Are you satisfied with the body I chose for you? A wisp of black smoke flashed past. Lu Qidua, who had been in a daze, suddenly raised her eyebrows. Her eyes were filled with deep resentment. The pungent smell in the air slowly dissipated. She looked at Jean Rongfeng, her eyes filled with hatred and love. Why did you come to find me? Lu Qidua asked faintly, her eyes filled with unconcealable melancholy. It had been 600 years. She had been wandering in the mortal world, waiting for Luo Qingchun's reincarnation. For a soul to stay in the mortal world, no one could understand the pain she had to endure. Why? It was all for Luo Qingchun's death. Back then, she was so angry that she went to the river and cried alone. She didn't expect to be pushed into the river. The moment she fell into the water, she could faintly see the sleeve of the person who pushed her into the water. That was a piece of clothing from the palace. She had been in the cold palace for many years. How could she not know about the clothing in the palace? She only had one enemy in the palace recently. That was the emperor's favorite princess, Luo Qingchun. What you want to do is what I want to do too. Jean Rongfeng glanced at her and wanted to pat her head. He didn't expect her to dodge immediately. Jean Rongfeng smiled helplessly. I'm the one who let you down. I caused you. I just want to know. She looked up at him and said, Do you still love him? The silence in the air was terrifying. After 600 years, the bones had turned into dust. But the love that wasn't accepted by the world was still in his heart. He couldn't forget it for a long time. Perhaps. After a long while, Jean Rongfeng smiled helplessly. But that doesn't mean I'll let Luo Qingchun go. How do you want to kill her? As long as Luo Qingchun was mentioned, Lu Qidua felt full of energy. She can break the curse of the vengeful spirit. Jean Rongfeng downed the red wine in his glass and said, I want her to feel what it feels like when death becomes a daily occurrence. What did you say? Lu Qidua's eyes flashed with surprise at Li Guang. She looked at him and said, You used the Wraith Curse? Don't you know that your soul will be destroyed and you will never be reincarnated? Ha 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 ha. Jean Rongfeng laughed into the sky when he heard this. Can Luo Qingchun pay back the 58 lives of my Jean family? Go to hell and never be reincarnated? I'm not afraid of any of them. As long as she's dead, anything is fine. Lu Qidua took a deep breath. Looking at the miserable Jean Rongfeng, her sharp eyes became gentle. After a long while, she sighed and said, No matter what decision you make, I'll support you. I wasn't able to accompany you through the most difficult time 600 years ago, but I can accompany you now. She had loved and hated Jean Rongfeng. But as time passed, she didn't know if there was love left, but she was sure that there was no hatred left. Chapter 1782. The next morning, Luo Qingshan went around the library after getting up, but she didn't see Du Jiusheng. Yimu was already back and had prepared breakfast for her. He was wearing coffee-colored overalls, looking very youthful. Prin, Qingshan, this place. He almost called her princess out of habit, but he immediately changed his words. Luo Qingshan revealed a faint smile as she walked in his direction. I heard that you were in danger yesterday. It's all my fault. Yimu said with a bit of regret. I should always be by your side, whether the gates of hell open or not. His heart was filled with deep guilt for not being able to protect her. He had stayed in the mortal world for 600 years just to wait for her to reincarnate so that he could protect her. But when she was in danger, he couldn't protect her. It's fine. Luo Qingshan looked around before asking, why don't I see Jiusheng today? In the next second, Yimu's eyes froze. A faint dark light flashed through his eyes as he said, last night, the gates of hell opened. He left his post without permission and was found out by Ming Si. He's currently being investigated. Pung pung. In an instant, a red light flashed in the surroundings, and the glasses on the bar table were all shattered. The glass shards slashed across her right cheek, and there was a trace of blood on her face. Luo Qingshan slightly knit her brows, but she didn't dodge at all. He stood where he was, calm and composed. In an instant, Yimu quickly stood in front of her. His young and bright eyes became cold and dark as he narrowed his eyes to look at Hongyu. What do you want to do? It's all because of you. Hongyu clenched her fists as her eyes filled with rage. She stared right at Luo Qingshan with eyes filled with killing intent. If Jiusheng doesn't come back, I definitely won't let you go. Luo Qingshan could feel her heart skip a beat as it fiercely skipped a beat. But her face was as calm as water, without any ripples at all. Could it be that Du Jiusheng would receive a serious punishment? Looking at the anger in Hong Yue's eyes, Luo Qingshan felt that her guess should be right. She frowned slightly and looked up to say something. Then, a series of familiar footsteps came from the door. Du Jiusheng appeared in front of her in a black sweater. His face was a bit pale, but his eyes were as deep as ink. Jiusheng, Hongyu called out to him softly, but he ignored her and walked towards Luo Qingshan. He slowly took out a Band-Aid from his pocket and gently placed it on the small wound on her cheek. I'm fine. I just went to the Netherworld office. Really? Luo Qingshan narrowed her eyes, looking at his slightly pale cheeks, a faint mist in her eyes. She seemed to be able to see his forbearance from his stubborn and taciturn personality. Even though he was injured, he didn't want her to worry. Du Jiusheng, why didn't your personality change after all this time? Of course. Du Jiusheng looked at her eyes. Although his face was cold, his voice was gentle as he replied, your master still needs to protect you. At that moment, he was very happy that he had the love tribulation. He could use the love tribulation as a cover to secretly like someone. Only he knew, that uncontrollable love that was burning like fire. Chapter 1783. Du Jiusheng heard this and seriously looked at her without saying a word. His eyes were very deep, so deep that when one looked into his eyes, one would feel as if they were 10,000 years old. Relax. He raised his left hand and softly took her hand. There was a trace of Li Guang in his eyes as he said, it's fine. How could it be fine? Hongyu charged forward and reached out her right hand to grab Luo Qingshan, but Du Jiusheng quickly protected her. There were beads of sweat on his forehead, but his dark as stars eyes were as calm as before. Why are you protecting her like this? Hongyu roared out as hot tears fell from her eyes. With the blood-red eyeshadow, it looked a bit terrifying. Do you not understand what I'm saying? Du Jiusheng narrowed his eyes as they were filled with coldness. The person he cared about was now in danger, and his colleague, who was also a Hell's emissary, actually wanted to hurt her time and time again. Hongyu probably didn't know that she was about to touch his bottom line. She will kill you. Hongyu gritted her teeth as she pointed at Luo Qingshan. Why are you protecting her like this? I know that you don't owe anyone favors in this world, and I know that you don't want her to die because she is your love calamity. But you have no choice, do you understand? Hong Yu's words were like pearls that fell in her heart bit by bit. She knew what she meant. She also knew what she meant by her words. But Du Jiusheng was protecting her like this because she was an innocent person. She was innocently involved in the love calamity of the Hell's Messenger, innocently being cursed and facing death. Du Jiusheng, as a Hell's Messenger, was protecting her out of responsibility, not because of other feelings. Luo Qingxun heard Hong Yu's words, and although her heart felt a bit uncomfortable, she had to admit that what she said was true. The past was still vivid in her mind, the scene of them dying together. Perhaps she isn't wrong. Du Jiusheng closed his eyes and said with a sigh, I didn't come with the goal of completing the mission this time. She didn't care if she succeeded or not in this world. It didn't matter if she went back or if she was turned to ashes. This time, she came to see Du Jiusheng. She wanted to be by his side. No matter what identity she had, she wanted to be by his side forever. But it seemed like she was being protected by him. Luo Qingxun, it's good that you know your place. Why are you his love calamity? Why are you shameless enough to stay by his side? Hong Yu's voice. But these words that made Luo Qingxun and Yi Mu surprised, there was a sense of déjà vu in their minds. In the past, she seemed to have heard these words in the past. In that instant, the image of a woman dressed in a red palace robe flashed across his mind. She had a proud expression on her face, and she was saying the exact same words. Yi Mu slightly knit his brows as a bit of doubt flashed in his narrowed eyes. Why did he say the same thing as Hong, from 600 years ago? But when Yi Mu said the word you, he was cut off by Du Jiusheng. He turned and looked at Luo Qingxun. His right hand slowly took her hand and held it with two eyes. Then he looked at Hong Yu with cold eyes and said, Since you want to know why, I'll tell you. His voice was very cold, but the temperature of his hand was very warm. Every word and sentence was like a spring breeze blowing in her heart. Chapter 1784. Everyone was stunned, including Luo Qingxun. Without the system's notification, she didn't know how much affection Du Jiusheng had for her. Under such uncertain circumstances, it was truly a heart-wrenching thing to have one's heartstrings suddenly tugged at. Du Jiusheng was like this, in front of everyone, calmly saying these words that were like a confession. His tone was calm, and his expression was calm. Hong Yu was instantly stunned. She wanted to say something, but it was stuck in her throat. Since the day she became the messenger of hell, Du Jiusheng had been her light. It didn't matter if he was looking at her or caring about her. As long as he stood there, he could light up her entire world. But at that moment, she felt that her world had completely collapsed and she couldn't see any light at all. I think you should understand. Du Jiusheng's voice was very calm. As soon as his voice fell, he looked at Luo Qingxun in a daze and softly took her hand. Come with me. I'm going to my room to get something. Luo Qingxun took a deep breath and obediently nodded. Yi Mu stood behind her and gave her a gratified smile. 600 years ago, the love that Princess Qingxun he protected didn't receive. Du Jiusheng finally gave it to her after 600 years. Whether it was that her or not, it didn't matter anymore. When she walked past Hong Yu, Luo Qingxun felt that it was a bit familiar. She never doubted this feeling since she was certain that no matter what world she was in, she had the ability to see the future. Perhaps it was just a fragment, perhaps it was a painful feeling. In this world, she could vaguely see the past from 600 years ago. If her guess wasn't wrong, Hong Yu and the main characters of a story from 600 years ago couldn't be separated from each other. When they came to Luo Qingxun's room, Du Jiusheng placed light blue evil vanquishing jade in the four directions. What did you put in there? Luo Qingxun's eyes trembled. She looked at the evil vanquishing jade and frowned slightly. As long as it isn't an undead over 1,000 years old, they can't enter this place no matter what method they use. Du Jiusheng raised his right hand and a light blue light surrounded the jade. The wall of the room instantly reflected a special pattern. It was very complicated. Actually, Luo Qingxun looked at his face that was gradually recovering. She narrowed her eyes and said, If you really have something to do, you can help me after you've dealt with it. I've learned my lesson, so I won't let this happen again. Du Jiusheng leaving his post this time definitely wasn't as easy as he said. Even if she didn't believe a single word, he didn't tell her anything about the outcome of the matter. Just like that, he shouldered everything by himself. He was like a hero who had suddenly appeared in her life, so dazzling. You think that I put this thing in you because I was afraid that something would happen to me and I couldn't leave to save you? Du Jiusheng raised a brow as his lips curled into a self-deprecating smile. Luo Qingshun was stunned, completely stunned by this smile. This was her first time seeing Du Jiusheng smile, although it was a bit self-deprecating. Chapter 1785. Luo Qingshun looked up, and her clear eyes looked at Du Jiusheng in a daze. There was an indescribable emotion in her eyes. There was a special feeling that there were some things that she remembered that he forgot. But he who forgot the past seemed to love her more deeply than her. Du Jiusheng, do you really believe in love tribulations? She didn't call him master. Rather, she called him by his full name. It sounded unfamiliar, but it was a special kind of inquiry. It was like making an oath. Du Jiusheng narrowed his eyes and looked at her face. He replied without thinking at all, I don't believe it. I only believe in my own feelings. His expression didn't change at all, but there was a bit of affection in his eyes as he looked at her. That pair of eyes that were as dark as ink emitted a fine light. That night, Luo Qingshun laid in bed for a long time without falling asleep. She thought of the past and Du Jiusheng's words because I like her. Actually, she was very happy, although it didn't show on her face. But she knew the throbbing in her heart, and when she thought of it, her lips couldn't help curling into a smile. But other than being happy, there was also fear. She wasn't afraid of Jin Rongfeng, Lu Qi Duo, or the resentful soul curse. She wasn't even afraid that their ending wouldn't be as she wished. The only thing she was afraid of was that he would die. So the only thing she needed to do here wasn't to complete the mission, but rather to keep him alive. She knew that there was only one way to keep him from being in danger because of her. Don't fall in love with her. Don't let him fall in love with her. Because Du Jiusheng had placed the evil vanquishing jade in her room, nothing strange happened in the past few days. She was still on duty in the library every night, watching people come and go. When she accidentally touched someone's body, she would see the scene of the other person's death. But she didn't remind him or tell him, because she knew that there was no meaning in doing this. What would happen would happen. If the king of hell wanted you to die at midnight, who could keep you alive until midnight? Even if he said it, it wouldn't change their ending. Other than when she was on duty at night, Yimu would accompany her every time she went out and never left her side. Sometimes she felt that the previous host from 600 years ago was quite lucky. At least she had a knight like Yimu by her side and a master like Du Jiusheng. Today, the sun was shining brightly. Probably because of the rare good weather, Luo Qingshun had nothing to do and asked Yimu about what happened 600 years ago. For example, why was he able to find a suitable body to live until now? For example, who was the original owner's personal maid? My body has been seriously ill since I was young, but his parents had a son at an old age. Even though the hope of having a child was slim, they refused to give up hope. Yimu took a sip of coffee elegantly and said, when he was dying, he saw me wandering in the mortal world and asked me to help him. Stay to take care of his parents? Luo Qingshun chuckled. She felt that she had heard a heartwarming story. Yimu nodded, then shook his head. A hint of gentleness flashed through his eyes as he said, it's more about companionship. Sometimes, what parents needed was not the care of their children, but their companionship. Chapter 1786. Yimu heard this and crossed his hands as he slightly knit his brows. I just feel that it's very familiar, strangely familiar. Those words, someone seemed to have said it before. I feel the same. Luo Qingshun slightly knit her brows. Do you still remember 600 years ago? My maid? Yimu shook his head. Actually, even your appearance is a bit blurry. After 600 years, many people's appearances have already disappeared from my mind. I can only remember a few vague outlines and her name. Name? Un. Yimu looked up and his lips curled into a gentle smile. If I remember correctly, she should be called Hong. 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 Red dress. The story from 600 years ago seemed to link all the memories together. If it was love or hate, the people who should have appeared had already appeared. There had been a series of murders in S City over the past few days. The murderer had a high IQ and was very cruel. The victims were all children who couldn't fight back, and it was already a case of several dozen lives. S City's Serious Crimes Department was busy, and Du Jiusheng was also busy. One was busy collecting corpses, and the other was busy collecting souls. After a few days of peace on a coffee afternoon, Luo Qingshun saw the scene of her second death. It was in a very high-class kindergarten. Two twin brothers came in with knives and started a wild slaughter like crazy. The perpetrators looked like humans, but their methods were very cruel. The hearts of the two children were dug out, and their intestines were exposed. And at this moment, she appeared. Du Jiusheng and Yi Mu weren't there. She appeared alone in the kindergarten. She had taken down the murderer, but she was caught by Jin Rongfeng. There was a light blue glow in her right palm, but Jin Rongfeng didn't give her a chance. He dug out her heart with his bare hands and ate it bite by bite. She closed her eyes as beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. She could still hear Jin Rongfeng's evil, charming voice. Exactly 58 lives. Do you want to save them or watch them die? Ha 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 ha. What is it? Yimu looked at Luo Qingshun with a bit of worry in his eyes. She knit her brows and shook her head. Nothing. Did you see something? No. Luo Qingshun instantly replied to Yimu. She didn't tell him what she had just seen. Yimu didn't appear in the picture. He probably wasn't here. The electronic clock in the school said February 13th. The day after tomorrow. Really? Yimu wanted to keep asking, but he suddenly felt a tearing pain in his heart. Luo Qingshun quickly asked, "What? Did something happen?" "It hurts." Knight's eyes suddenly opened, and his pupils instantly turned black. He said softly, "Did something happen to my parents?" "Qingshun, stay in a library and don't wander around." Yimu frowned in pain. She bit her lips and said, "I'm going to City A. Wait for me to come back." So Yimu had gone to find his parents. Luo Qingshun was surprised, but she immediately came back to her senses. She looked at him and said, "Relax. Stay in the Helm Messenger's place. Other than a dumb undead like you, who would dare come in?" As soon as his voice fell, he quickly left in the direction of the gate. Luo Qingshun could see the worry in his eyes, since Yimu was such a kind person. Chapter 1787. Looking at Yimu's departing figure, she sighed softly. What should come would come. She knew that Jin Rongfeng was using some method to force her to make a choice. Her life or the lives of 58 children. At that moment, she suddenly missed the system. If the system was still here, it could give her some suggestions. Should she ignore this matter, or should she be the hero in the eyes of the children? Actually, she didn't know, but she knew that things had reached a point of no return. Jin Rongfeng wanted her dead. Lu Qi Duo wanted her dead, but she didn't have the ability to resist them. He had to experience death again and again, and he had to be protected again and again. She could already imagine the final result. Those people who protected her would fall one by one, and the one who fell in the end would be Du Jiusheng. The end of this special world. Could it be that she didn't experience it? Perhaps. She should personally end this endless cycle. Perhaps in the eyes of others, she was the hero who saved the world, but only she knew why. She wanted Du Jiu to live well. If there wasn't anyone who wanted her dead, if she wasn't cursed by the resentful soul curse, she would definitely go all out to live, going all out to stay by his side. Because they had been separated for too long, she missed him. That night, she went to the winery next door to buy a bottle of red wine. A 73 law fight. It was definitely a top-quality product. The boss of the winery was very good, personally choosing the wine for her and beautifully packaging it. The person you're meeting must be very important to you. Before leaving, the boss looked at her with a faint smile as he spoke. Luo Qingshun couldn't help thinking of Du Jiusheng's appearance, and her lips curled into a smile that was hard to hide. A very, very important person. As soon as her voice fell, she slowly turned around, but she never thought that there would be a familiar figure standing outside the glass door. He had his hands in the pockets of his black coat, as he looked at her with deep eyes. There were feather-like snowflakes falling from the sky, landing on his hair and shoulders. He stood in the snow, waiting for her. Luo Qingshun took a deep breath and slowly walked over. She shook the red wine in her hand and said, "Master, do you want to have a drink together?" "Yes." He responded faintly and took the red wine from her hand. "Why didn't you say anything when you came out?" When Yimu wasn't by his side, he had to pay close attention to her movements at all times. He was deeply afraid that the slightest negligence would cause her to fall into danger. Luo Qingshun looked at his brows and eyes. Her eyes were misty and her nose was sour. She almost cried. His expression was indifferent, but his deep eyes were filled with indescribable gentleness. He didn't know why, but when he came back from his business today, he had a very uneasy feeling in his heart. This feeling of uneasiness was mixed with an indescribable longing. He always wanted to see her. It didn't matter if they didn't say a word or if they just watched from afar. It was probably because the growth rings of time were too long that nothing could touch his heart anymore. Luo Qingshun was the only one. "It's right next door." She pursed her lips and chuckled. "Besides, if there is any sign of danger, I will be the first to see it. Don't worry." He gave a slight nod. "You have to tell me when you see it. The Wraith's curse isn't as simple as you think. I will protect you." Chapter 1788. The bright moonlight shined in through the window, and Luo Qingshun walked around Du Jiusheng's study with a surprised look on her face. It was close to 10 meters high, and it was surrounded by layers, with each layer being filled with books and books. "Are these all the dead that you've received?" Luo Qingshun looked up with a faint guang in her eyes. She felt that this man in front of her was very outstanding, but there was a deep loneliness in his excellence. Du Jiusheng gave a slight nod. There was a sparkle in his eyes as he softly said, "There are some who are evil and some who are kind." They thought that everything that had happened in the mortal world would be written off in this place. Actually, this is just the beginning. Luo Qingshun took a sip of the red wine, and her face was a bit red. Her lips curled as she said, "Do you believe in past lives?" "I do." "Do you believe that other than meeting 600 years ago, we could meet in another parallel world?" Luo Qingshun looked up with a faint guang in her eyes. After a long silence, he narrowed his eyes as he seriously looked at her. "I do." Luo Qingshun rubbed her nose and looked at him with a satisfied smile. "That's good." Du Jiusheng, "Our meeting definitely wasn't as simple as 600 years ago." "I know." Her figure was reflected in his deep as the sea eyes as he seriously looked at her. "Didn't I say it's 600 years ago? It was because of a very important person that I saved the princess." I know that you aren't her." His voice was very soft, with a bit of gentleness in it. His expression didn't change at all. It was as calm as water and as light as ink. When he heard the story from Yimu from 600 years ago, he knew that the girl standing in front of him wasn't that princess. He thought that she was probably the very important person that he had divined back then. Come to think of it, he already knew about his love tribulation 600 years ago. How could he possibly avoid it? The surrounding air fell into silence because of Du Jiusheng's words. Luo Qingshun just looked at him in a daze as an indescribable feeling filled her heart. Du Jiusheng, he really was that Du Jiusheng. Without his past identity and memories, he still tried his best to run towards her, using all kinds of methods to stand firmly by her side. Du Jiusheng. She softly called his name as a faint guang appeared in her eyes. He replied. His deep eyes looked at her red cheeks, and his heart throbbed. People often say, a man and a woman alone in a room. Luo Qingshun would never know how nervous Du Jiusheng was at this moment. It's been raining nonstop for the past few days, and it's snowing heavily. She walked towards him step by step and said with a faint smile, Yimu said it was because of you. Not today. Du Jiusheng looked at the heavy rain outside the window, and his lips curled into a faint smile. The weather forecast said that our city would have 2 typhoons. It's like this. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and stood in front of him with a smile that was hard to hide. But the recent weather forecast isn't that accurate. He narrowed his eyes as he looked at Luo Qingshun in front of him, and his heart began to beat fast. Chapter 1789. At this moment, the heavy rain outside the window suddenly stopped. The big trees planted outside the library were instantly filled with the strong fragrance of flowers. Du Jiusheng was frozen in place as a faint blush appeared on his beautiful face. He was like a piece of wood, not moving at all. At this moment, countless thoughts of what would happen next flashed through his mind. Should he push her away or hug her tightly? But when he came back to his senses and wanted to reach out to hug her, her eyes lit up as she looked at the colorful sky outside the window. It was like fireworks in the endless night. Wow, so beautiful, so beautiful. So the world would look like this when he was in a good mood. Du Jiusheng heard this and helplessly shook his head. He came to her side and looked at the sky as he said, "Do you like it?" See. Luo Qingshun looked over and took a cold breath. She couldn't help feeling a bit surprised when she saw the curve of his lips. This was her first time seeing him smile since coming to this world. Du Jiusheng, who was the messenger of hell, had always been cold in her eyes. He was as indifferent as dust, like nothing could affect his mood. "What is it?" He looked up and drank the red wine in his hand, as a bit of confusion appeared in his deep eyes. Don't always be in a bad mood in the future. It's not good. She saw him looking in her eyes and suddenly felt a bit shy. But even if she was shy, she was willing to keep looking at him. She felt that he looked very good when he was focused. "Why?" He raised a brow as he asked. "Because you look very good when you smile. I like it very much." This was what Luo Qingshun wanted to say in her heart, but she said something else on the surface. Because it's always raining and snowing, it affects the citizens' convenience. Such a dignified reason, but when it came out of her mouth, there was an inexplicable sadness. There was a feeling of saying goodbye. Hong Long. There was a flash of lightning in the colorful sky that was deafening. Du Jiusheng narrowed his eyes, and there was a strange sense of loss in his heart. He felt that this wasn't the answer he wanted, but seeing her faint smile, he couldn't help saying no. "All right." Du Jiusheng's eyes that were as deep as the sea relaxed as he looked at her. "For the convenience of the citizens, try to maintain a happy mood. Master is so nice." She smiled at him with a touch of satisfaction. Du Jiusheng didn't respond to her kiss. He didn't even come forward to hug her. But she clearly knew that because of her kiss, he was happier than anyone else. The sky was filled with colorful purples and brilliant reds, and all the trees outside the library were in full bloom in an instant. This was the feeling that Du Jiusheng couldn't hide. She knew everything. She even knew why he didn't return her kiss, why he didn't hug her. It was probably to protect her. Hong Wei was right about one thing. If he didn't care about his love tribulations, he would never grow old, die, and live in this world without illness or pain. But for her, he was willing to risk everything to protect her. Even when he was injured, he never said a word. Chapter 1790. In the dreamy night, the sky was filled with stars and the sky was as bright as the Milky Way. The youth slowly carried her into her room and covered her with a blanket before softly patting her head. Actually, Luo Qingshun was very sober. She wasn't drunk at all. How could she get drunk with her good alcohol tolerance? She just wanted to be secretly hugged by him and feel the warmth before parting. But in her heart, she could feel the reluctance to part surging like a tide. She really wanted to grab his hand and tell him everything she had seen. Then she wouldn't go anywhere. She would take him to the supermarket the day after tomorrow to buy many ingredients and make a rich dinner. She would open a bottle of sweet red wine and fill the sky with candlelight, enjoying the world that belonged to the two of them. It wasn't a painful parting. This time, it was her own choice. If it wasn't for righteousness, it was for her conscience to protect him. Good night. Du Jiusheng looked at her sleeping appearance with a gentle glow in his eyes. 2 days later. The sky was clear, and even in the depths of winter, the temperature was around 10 degrees, just right for humidity. There was a strong scent of flowers around the library, and the petals fell onto the front yard, giving it a feeling of early spring. She woke up very early, wearing a moon-white sweater and a short black and gray skirt. She curled her hair with a curling iron and tied it into a cute ponytail. After tidying up the room, She stood in front of the window and took a deep breath. The sunlight fell on her white cheeks, bringing a warm feeling. It seemed like a certain person's mood over the past 2 days wasn't bad. She looked up and stroked the evil, vanquishing jade with her fingers, as her lips curled into a faint smile. She always felt that she had let down Du Jiusheng's good intentions. He wanted to protect her, but she had taken it away herself. When she went out like normal, Yimu would send her a text every day to make sure she was safe. His parents were seriously injured in the hospital, but he still cared about her safety. She really had let down Yimu. At 10:30 in the morning, she went to the antique market to buy a sword. The Cambridge sword was very sharp. It should be used for collecting classics. She liked this sword because it was very similar to the Phoenix dance sword. Although it didn't have any spiritual power, it was still a very pleasing sword. He always felt that he was about to die, but before he died, he wanted to be a hero who saved the world. It would be best if he could be a hero who saved the world like Joker. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the kindergarten was filled with laughter and laughter. The children all had big smiles on their faces. They were like babies in an ivory tower, making people want to protect them. After going through so much, he suddenly had a side view. This kind of heart seemed to have nothing to do with kindness. Instead, it was because she knew that she could still return to the primal chaos space. She had endless life. He wasn't unwilling to give up his life or the world. It was just Du Jiusheng. But these children were different. They had parents, and they only had one life and one memory. Reincarnation. Time passes and circumstances change. They should have come to this world to enjoy warmth, not to kill. 58 lives? What a joke. How much did Jin Rongfeng hate her? He actually used such a method to force her to appear. If she didn't appear, he would use these 58 lives to pay tribute to the dead of the Jin family. Big sister, what is this? It's so beautiful. A little boy ran over and touched her sword. Is this the sword of an illusion master? Chapter 1791. As soon as her voice fell, she looked up at the electronic clock in front of her. There were still 10 minutes. She unconsciously glanced at the palm of her right hand. She suddenly wanted to see his name on her palm again. As long as she gently grasped it, she could have Du Jiusheng. But she knew that this time, what she wanted was for him to never appear. Ah! A sharp cry cut through her thoughts. 2 men with knives suddenly charged out, slashing out at a girl without any hesitation. They weren't looking for money or lust. They were looking for a kind of stimulation. She didn't know if it was Jin Rongfeng who influenced them or if they were evil people. She only knew that it didn't feel good to come even though she knew it was dangerous. But it was something that had to be done. What kind of skill is bullying little children? Luo Qingchun gave a shrug as her lips curled into a faint smile. Kill me if you have the skills. Her taunting words and eyes filled with disdain. The children heard this and charged at her like a swarm of bees. Since it wasn't the end of class, there was no one else in the kindergarten. The 2 perverted killers looked at each other, raised their 5-meter-long knives, and slashed in her direction. With a cold snort, she leaped up and landed steadily behind them. The hilt of the sword in her hand slammed into their wrists. The other side felt pain, and their 5-meter-long knives fell to the ground. Humph, so weak. In the blink of an eye, Luo Qingchun's right elbow slammed down at their necks. There was a get-on sound as the crisp sound of bones breaking. There was a cry of pain from the other side, and the 2 perverted killers' faces turned pale in less than 10 seconds as cold sweat dripped down. Pa, 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 pa. There was a burst of warm applause. The children standing behind her kept clapping for her as they said in their tender voices, Big sister, you can do it. Big sister is great. Looking at their simple and carefree smiles, Luo Qingchun actually smiled with relief at this moment. So this is what it feels like to be a completely good person. It turns out that there's a reason why the saying of giving someone a rose leaves a lingering fragrance in your hand has been passed down to this day. In the next second, a gust of cold wind blew, and the air was filled with a turbid aura. The children were still standing behind her, not moving at all. Luo Qingchun glanced at the kindergarten teacher who stood far away and didn't dare to come forward. She frowned slightly and used both hands to knock down the two perverts again. She turned to look at the children and said, "Hurry up and go back to the classroom. No matter what happens, don't come out. Do you understand? Sister, are you going to fight the final boss?" The little boy who came to ask her a question blinked his eyes and looked at her fearlessly. "Sister, you can do it. I'll always support you in fighting the big boss. You'll definitely succeed. We all support you." Sister is the embodiment of justice. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. That set of moves just now was really too cool. Big sister, can you teach me after you're done with the big boss? I want to show it to Xiao Mei from the next class. Every time a tender voice sounded in her ears, she felt so gratified. Some of her worldview unknowingly changed at this moment. Chapter 1792. Luo Qingshun. Long time no see. Jean Rongfeng wore a wine-red jacket and looked at her with a victorious expression. "Did you miss me?" Luo Qingshun didn't speak. Her right hand gripped her sword tightly as she narrowed her eyes at Jean Rongfeng. Even if she was a mantis trying to stop a chariot, she wouldn't surrender. "Why aren't you saying anything? I think there's someone you haven't seen in a long time." As soon as Jean Rongfeng finished speaking, a person slowly walked out from behind him. This person was familiar to both the original host and Luo Qingshun, but it was different this time. Lu Qidua, her colleague. She never understood why she couldn't see the eyes of the original host from Lu Qidua's memories. She only found out today because the time wasn't right. At this moment, the Lu Qidua standing in front of her had a cold and ruthless look that was different from normal people. She wasn't the Lu Qidua of this world, but the person who was pushed into the pond and drowned 600 years ago. She finally appeared. "Long time no see, Your Highness." Lu Qidua's red lips curled up and a strong perfume smell came from her body. It seemed like she was using the perfume to cover up a certain smell. After smelling it a few more times, her stomach started to churn. "Sister, go in, hurry." Her tone was heavy and her right hand was tightly clenched. She entered a state of high concentration. The children looked at each other, then glanced at her and jogged into the classroom. At the same time, Jean Rongfeng raised his right hand and created a dark red circle of light around them. The people outside the circle could only see them standing there, but couldn't see their movements. Luo Qingshun could feel the dangerous power around her, but she didn't panic at all. She only looked up when she was sure there weren't any children around her. "Chem, no matter if I win or lose, I'll say the same thing. If you can fight, don't talk." Ha ha ha. The next second, the gloomy Lu Qidua couldn't help but laugh at the sky. "You're even more arrogant than you were 600 years ago. Do you know that I can crush you like an ant right now? It's a pity that 600 years ago, you were killed by others like an ant." Luo Qingshun narrowed her cold eyes, her tone without a trace of warmth. There were some things that she didn't want to explain, but she also didn't want to be wrong for no reason. Yes meant yes and no meant no. "You?" Lu Qiduo didn't seem to understand the meaning behind her words. She gritted her teeth and said, "You're courting death." At this moment, she teleported in front of Luo Qingshun and reached out to strangle her neck. Little did she know that Luo Qingshun's reaction was faster than hers. Almost at the same time, he dodged to the side and avoided her attack. A vengeful spirit that has lived for 600 years only has this much ability? Luo Qingshun shrugged her shoulders. Although her willpower was highly concentrated, her face was as indifferent as dust, without the slightest trace of panic. As the saying goes, you can't lose your dignity even if you lose. That was how she felt at this moment. The angrier the opponent was, the easier it was to reveal flaws when attacking. Although Lu Qidua's attack speed was several times faster than normal people, it didn't mean that she couldn't make a judgment based on her body's forward sway. In a battle between karate experts, it was often through prediction to win. She opened her mouth wide and roared, attacking Luo Qingshun again. In the blink of an eye, she pulled out the sword in her hand and stabbed it at a predetermined position. Chapter 1793. Jean Rongfeng saw this and quickly came forward to hug Lu Qiduo. He suddenly waved his right hand and a strong dark light shot out in Luo Qingshun's direction. She narrowed her eyes and took 2 steps to the side, dodging Jin Rongfeng's attack. It had to be said, Jin Rongfeng was much stronger than Lu Chi Duo. They were both 600-year-old wraiths, but Lu Chi Duo was just a bit stronger than normal people. But Jin Rongfeng was different. The Jin family had lost 58 lives. His persistent love wasn't reciprocated, and the people who loved him died because of him, turning him into a malicious spirit. Not bad, you have some skills. Jin Rongfeng softly helped Lu Chi Duo up as his right hand brushed over the wound on her arm. The sword wound quickly healed. Although it wasn't completely healed, it was the same as a normal person's wound after 10 days. Stop wasting words. She slowly raised her sword and looked at Jin Rongfeng with a determined look. Be faster if you want to kill me. You know that you don't have much time. Jin Rongfeng had to kill her in an instant. If he only injured her, Du Jiusheng would be able to arrive as soon as possible. Luo Qingshan was very clear on this, and Jin Rongfeng was even more clear on this. But he never thought that Lu Chi Duo couldn't beat Luo Qingshan. Her actions just now were too unbelievable. She wasn't like a normal person at all. Not to mention that what she said just now made him fall in a deep thought. She had said that someone else had killed Lu Chi Duo, not her. What are you doing? You're not going to make a move? Lu Chi Duo saw that Jin Rongfeng beside her was stunned, and there was a trace of anger in his eyes. She turned to him and said, "What are you hesitating for?" "Sorry." Jin Rongfeng narrowed his eyes, and his red lips curled into a strange smile. "I'm just thinking about how to kill her." As soon as his voice fell, Jin Rongfeng turned into black smoke and surrounded her. Luo Qingshan instantly felt like she was suffocating. Her mind went blank, and she didn't even have a chance to resist, because she couldn't see where Jin Rongfeng was at all. There were only clouds of black smoke surrounding her, as if she was shrouded in death. In an instant, she felt her neck tighten. His bone-chilling hand pinched her hard. At this moment, she knew that she had tried her best. If she had the slightest bit of superpower, she would be able to kill Jin Rongfeng instantly. Unfortunately, she didn't. Even the sword in her right hand was useless against Jin Rongfeng. "You think you can fight against us just because you bought a broken sword from the market?" Jin Rongfeng's mocking voice rang in her ears. "You're still as confident as you were 600 years ago. But now it's not called confidence, it's called stupidity." She could not reply to Jin Rongfeng, but she replied in her heart, "My Fengwu sword is not something a departed soul like you can withstand." In the next second, when Luo Qingshan was ready to meet her death, she heard a whoosh sound. The black cloud around her instantly dissipated, and the feeling of suffocation disappeared. The temperature, which was originally more than 10 degrees Celsius, suddenly dropped. The cloudless sky was instantly covered with thick, dark clouds. At this moment, heavy snow swirled in the air. Luo Qingshan was surprised, but Du Jiusheng's name didn't appear on her right palm. It wasn't until the temperature dropped to -20 degrees that the seal of the contract faintly lit up in her hand. Chapter 1794. Not only Luo Qingshan, even Jin Rongfeng was stunned. In order to stop Du Jiusheng from participating this time, he had used 58 lives to restrain Luo Qingshan while calculating that Du Jiusheng wouldn't appear. But in the end, he still appeared. Du Jiusheng broke Jin Rongfeng's barrier at the same time. There was a faint blue glow in his right hand as he stood firmly by her side. How is this possible?" Jin Rongfeng's eyes were a bit shocked, but there was also an unknown pain in his shock. Du Jiusheng slowly took Luo Qingshan's hand, and there was a faint blue glow in his dark eyes, looking bottomless. This scene was different from what she expected. How could it be like this? How was this possible? "Are you all right?" He didn't respond to Jin Rongfeng. Rather, he looked deeply at Luo Qingshan with a worried look in his eyes. If it wasn't for the sad feeling the evil shattering jade gave him, he wouldn't have known that Luo Qingshan would be facing Jin Rongfeng alone. No one in this world would understand that even if his right hand was tightly holding her hand, he could feel his fingers trembling. He was very afraid. He was really afraid. This was the kind of fear that came from time and space. He was afraid that he couldn't protect her and she would leave him like this. Perhaps at this moment, Du Jiusheng finally understood how much he loved her. Why? Why do you have to protect her every time? Jin Rongfeng held his chest as his face twisted in pain. Lu Chi-duo, standing beside him, couldn't help giving a self-deprecating laugh. Nothing has changed in the end. I'm the outsider, right? She had never participated in the world of the three of them. Whether it was love or hate, it's natural for me to protect the person I love. He looked up with a cold look in his eyes. It was like there was nothing but coldness in those eyes. Even Luo Qingshun, standing beside him, could feel the anger and coldness in Du Jiusheng's heart. The person you love. He. Ha 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 ha. He gave a wild laugh before his red eyes turned bloodshot. He tightly gritted his teeth as he said, "How can you protect such an unbearable person? Luo Qingshun. She was such a vicious woman. She had the world 600 years ago, but she wasn't satisfied. Not only did she kill Lu Chi-duo, she also killed his family's 58 people. What right did such a vicious and merciless person have to win his love? This was tarnishing his love. This is my matter. I don't need you to ask me." Du Jiusheng gave a soft snort and narrowed his eyes to look at him. "The nameplate will come down in 3 days. If you and Lu Chi-duo aren't planning on coming back to hell with me, the one looking for you won't be me." Du Jiusheng's voice was very cold. Without any emotions at all, there was only coldness. This time Jin Rongfeng was stunned because Du Jiusheng had added Lu Chi-duo. He had already caused her to float in the mortal world for 600 years. He couldn't let her disappear from this world forever. But Luo Qingshun, he had to let her die. No, he didn't care. He couldn't care about them. There was only one thought in his mind. No matter what price he had to pay, Luo Qingshun had to die. In 3 days, I will definitely kill her. I will use all methods to kill her. Jin Rongfeng stared right at Luo Qingshun with eyes filled with hatred. But after that, Chapter 1795. She never knew that a cold person like Du Jiusheng could say such seductive words. However, his words made her feel even more worried. In the end, she had been found by him, and she had been saved by him. Jin Rongfeng left unwillingly with endless hatred, but he couldn't kill Luo Qingshun in front of Du Jiusheng. And he, just like 600 years ago, desperately protecting her. On the way back, it was snowing heavily. The temperature didn't rise because of her safe return, rather it kept dropping. Luo Qingshun knew that Du Jiusheng wasn't happy. Even if his left hand was tightly holding her right hand, he still wasn't happy. The pure white snow fell onto her hair, her clothes, and her eyelashes. With a gentle flash of the fan, snowflakes fell down. Actually, this atmosphere was very quiet. She felt that if she kept walking in the snow like this, she could keep walking until her hair turned white. Cool. She cleared her throat and looked over at him. That master, Woo! Before her voice fell, she was instantly brought into a warm embrace. Du Jiusheng suddenly took her waist and wrapped her in his plush coat. He narrowed his eyes and looked into her clear as water eyes, kissing her without any hesitation. Luo Qingshun didn't have time to react as those lips fell down. There was a hot, lingering feeling that stole all her reason. In an instant, all the flowers and trees within 10 kilometers of them bloomed. There was still snow falling from the sky, and the temperature didn't warm up. The petals mixed with the snowflakes danced in the air, creating a beautiful scene. Taking advantage of this gap, Luo Qingshun wanted to say something, but his kiss stopped all her words. He domineeringly didn't let her speak, didn't let her resist, and didn't let her leave. But why did she know that such a dangerous thing would happen and didn't even tell him? Could it be that his position in her heart wasn't worth a single cent? Could it be that she thought that he didn't have the ability to protect her and needed her to face danger alone? He really wanted to kiss her like this and use a silent and domineering way to tell her that he had the ability to protect her. As long as he was alive, he would never let her be in danger. She didn't know how long it had been, but he slowly let go of her. He narrowed his eyes and asked with a sigh, "Why didn't you tell me?" Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and didn't say anything. She felt a little wronged, an unspeakable grievance. Du Jiusheng would never know that if Luo Qingshun had the chance to hold his hand and live a peaceful life. Thus, no matter how difficult the road ahead was, she would grit her teeth and continue forward. But she was scared, more scared than anyone else. She had all the memories, the good ones, the happy ones, the painful ones, the sad ones, because you don't understand. She took a deep breath and looked into his eyes. She bit her lip and said, "We can't like each other." Du Jiusheng heard this, and his lips curled into a faint cold smile as he kissed her again without any hesitation. Chapter 1796. Luo Qingchen's mind went blank like there was an explosion in it. Just like this, Du Jiusheng confessed to her in the snow that filled the sky. This was definitely a naked confession. Every word was real and true. "You?" She pursed her lips into a smile that was hard to hide as she said, "What did you just say?" There were some words that you wanted to hear a second time after hearing them. Because even if these words were in her mind, she couldn't help curling her lips. Du Jiusheng saw her happy expression and couldn't bear to say another word of reproach. When did he fall in love with her, and how much did he love her that he could become like this? He raised his right hand and took the petals in her hair before patting her head. "I love you, Luo Qingchun." It was just 6 short words, but it felt like thousands of years to her. The last time she told him that she loved him, she could feel it deeply as long as she closed her eyes. There were gunshots all around, how he used his power to freeze his blood, and how he said he loved her. After going around, everything seemed to have returned to the beginning. He was still that Du Jiusheng, and she was still that Luo Qingchun. Nothing had changed. The only thing that had changed was she wouldn't let that kind of sad ending happen again. "I also love you, Du Jiusheng." She stood up and placed a kiss on his cheek, "But I don't need you to protect me. This is why you clearly saw the scene before you died. But you weren't willing to tell me?" He couldn't help feeling a bit annoyed. His lips curled into a helpless smile as he looked at her. "You think I can't protect you?" "No." She shook her head and stroked his face with her right hand. "I know that you will do everything to protect me until you use your last bit of strength and your last bit of life." After saying this, her voice was a bit choked up, but she kept looking at his face as she continued. "I just don't want you to lose your life again to protect me." Du Jiusheng didn't understand. He didn't have any memories, so he couldn't understand. If he would die every time because of her, then it would be better if they had never met. He stared into her eyes in a daze, looking at her slightly furrowed brows and her somewhat anxious expression. He felt an inexplicable heartache in his heart. He didn't respond for a long time. Luo Qingchun blinked doubtfully and asked, "Did you not understand?" He probably didn't understand. After all, he only had the memories of the present world and knew nothing about what had happened in the previous 2 planes. Not being able to understand was a very normal thing. Little did she know that his eyes, which were as deep as the sea, were looking at her with a doting gaze. "I understand. But so what?" Du Jiusheng gave a soft laugh as his slender fingers softly touched her cheek. "It's already too late." From the day they met, everything was already too late. The love at first sight that he was unwilling to admit did not mean that it did not take root in his heart. "What do you mean by too late?" Luo Qingchen frowned. She seemed to understand, but she also pretended not to understand. Chapter 1797. These are the most beautiful words of love she had ever heard in this life. She didn't even know how to respond or how to refute it. Du Jiusheng had already said everything. It was so thorough. She never would have thought that no matter which life Du Jiusheng had, he would always have an obsession like a normal person. But this time, he directly told her about this obsession. That kind of heart skipped a beat. It was already 8:30 when they returned to the library. Lan Fan had been waiting for them in the main hall for a long time, and of course, there was also Hong Yu with a dark look on her face. "You're finally back. Are you all right?" He looked at Luo Qingchun with a bit of nervousness. After all, they had been together all day, and their relationship had become deeper. Luo Qingchun shook her head and said, "I'm fine." "Of course you're fine. Do you know what price Jiusheng paid to find you?" Hong Yu crossed her arms as she coldly looked at her. "You're good. You really aren't injured at all." "Hong Yu." "Jiusheng." Hong Yu bit her lip as she looked at him. "I'm doing this for your own good. I really, Hell's messenger Yu Hong heir. Du Jiusheng called out her previous life's name as his eyes turned cold. Han Yu was shocked as she was frozen in place. This name hadn't been called for close to 200 years. Ming Si had told her that this name was sinful and she could change her name after becoming the Hell's messenger. At that time, she had already forgotten her previous life and didn't know why her name was sinful. But since Ming Si said this, she casually gave it a code name. After all, as the Hell's messenger, it wasn't important if she didn't have a name. But now Du Jiusheng had directly called out her name, being so serious and unfamiliar. From this day forth, you will follow the Western District's God Mao. Du Jiusheng looked at her with cold eyes. I've already talked to Ming Si about this matter. You don't need to come to the library starting tomorrow. Without any discussion, it broke their close to 100 years of friendship. You don't want me anymore? Han Yu was clearly very hurt as her eyes were filled with tears. Why? Why was it that after being with him for all these years, she couldn't compare to Luo Qingchen, who had appeared for less than a month? Could it be that it was only because she was his love tribulation? I didn't have any friends or lovers. His tone was cold and emotionless as he said, We are just colleagues. I think you know that better than I do. But you have friends now. Hanwha patted her chest unwillingly and said, We are not friends yet. Not really. Du Jiusheng immediately replied to her before saying, I still don't have any friends, but I have a lover. What? Brother, you have a lover? This time, Hanyu was not the only one who was shocked. Lan Fan was too. This person who loved gossiping about Du Jiusheng the most actually didn't know that he had a lover. Lan Fan looked at Du Jiusheng before looking at Luo Qingchen. He couldn't help giving her a thumbs up as he muttered in his heart. She really is the #1 appraiser. She took care of the ice mountain in just a few days. Yes, he responded faintly and then turned his eyes. His originally cold gaze instantly became gentle and doting. Chapter 1798. The moon at night was full and everything seemed to have returned to the beginning. Fate really wasn't something you could avoid. After Han Yu left, Luo Qingchen thought for a long time. Whether it was her guess or Du Jiusheng calling out Han Yu's name, she should be the mate of the previous host from 600 years ago. But there was only one reason she didn't say it. Reincarnation was the reincarnation of fate, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. No matter how much sin she had committed in her previous life, since hell was willing to forgive her, what right did she have to bring out the sins of her previous life? But in other words, the most innocent one was the previous host from 600 years ago. After all, she didn't do anything, but she was cursed for 100 years. Actually, this was the most unfair thing. In the midst of her thoughts, she fell asleep in a daze. When she woke up the next morning, there was an important guest in the library, a real important guest. This was Luo Qingchen's first time seeing Ming Si, a man as gentle as jade. There was a clear contrast between him and Du Jiusheng. They were both people of hell, but he gave people a very close feeling. This must be young Miss Luo Qingchen. Ming Si's lips curled into a faint smile. Luo Qingchen could clearly feel that this smile wasn't dangerous. But Du Jiusheng blocked her without any hesitation as he looked at Ming Si. Sir Ming, Qingchen. Ming Si saw how nervous Du Jiusheng was and waved his hand. I won't hurt her. Our relationship is deeper than you think. Luo Qingchen narrowed her eyes. Although she didn't understand the meaning of Ming Si's words, at least the words won't hurt her were true. But Du Jiusheng still didn't move from in front of her. It's fine. Luo Qingchen softly pulled on his sleeve. Moreover, if Sir Ming wants to hurt me, it'll be hard for Master to protect me. No. Ming Si revealed a faint smile as he looked at her and said, The person Jiusheng wants to protect, no one in this world can take her away. I wonder why Sir Ming is here today. Du Jiusheng narrowed his eyes and gradually let down his guard. Ming Si's words had never changed. Since he said that he would not hurt Luo Qingchen, then he would not hurt her. However, for some reason, he still felt very nervous. It turned out that loving someone could make one lose all sense of reason. Her safety was the only mission in this life. Of course, I'm here to bring you good news. Ming-Si took out 2 black tokens from his pocket and said, Jin Rongfeng and Lu Qidua's tokens are here. Du Jiusheng was stunned before quickly taking the sign. There was a faint sparkle in his deep eyes as he said, I've finally waited for the sign. But I have to tell you that they are all vengeful spirits from 600 years ago. If they fight by disintegrating into ashes, even I can't stop them. Ming-Si said, but the good news is that once the token is here, they won't be able to stay in the mortal world for more than 7 days. I know this. Du Jiusheng slightly knit his brows. I also know that during these 7 days, they will be at their strongest as vengeful spirits. As your boss, I hope that you can take care of yourself. Ming-Si said with a chuckle. As brothers of several hundred years, protect yourself and your sister-in-law. Chapter 1799. To be safe, why don't we have a wedding between a human and a messenger of hell? Ming-Si looked up. His eyes were as deep as ink, but there was a bit of warmth in them. Everyone was stunned, never thinking that Ming-Si would say something like this. After all, he had always taught the messengers of hell how to pass their love tribulations, not pushing them into their love tribulations. Du Jiusheng didn't know what he meant, but Luo Qinshan could vaguely see a look of satisfaction in his eyes. Actually, she wasn't happy to see this kind of look. Really? Can I? Du Jiusheng's voice that had been calm for thousands of years finally had a ripple. This was his first time speaking in an uncertain tone because he knew that the messengers of hell weren't qualified to have love, even if his heart longed to have it. Yes, Ming-Si said with a nod. I can also be the witness for your marriage. All right, many thanks. Du Jiusheng looked at Luo Qinshan and said, before this, I want to ask if young Miss Luo Qinshan is willing to marry a messenger of hell who has everything and has nothing. Wah! Lan Fan, standing on the side, looked at Du Jiusheng with a happy smile and said, Big brother, so you know how to say words of love. He says more than you think. Luo Qinshan pursed her lips and looked into his deep as ink eyes with a faint smile. No matter what happens in the future, you will have me. Fool! Du Jiusheng raised his right hand and lovingly stroked her cheek. Love tribulations are really good. Ming-Si gave a happy nod before looking at them. There's no time like the present. Since I'm here now, I can be the witness for your marriage. All right. Lord Ming's witness is my and Jiusheng's fortune. Luo Qinshan pursed her lips and said, After all, you are the person Master has respected the most in the past 600 years. He looked up with a smile that was hard to hide. Good. Du Jiusheng and her wedding was more grand than she imagined because most of the guests weren't people. There were 99 tables and 90% of them were messengers of hell. They all had smiles on their faces as they attended their wedding. The wedding dress fell and the sky was filled with prosperity. The entire city, as countless flowers bloomed and filled the sky. Are you willing to marry Mr. Du Jiusheng and never leave him for the rest of your life? I'm willing. Are you willing to marry young Miss Luo Qinshan and stay by her side forever? Cherish her and protect her? I will stay by her side and protect her for 100 generations. The way he looked at her was very gentle, as if he was staring at a precious treasure. He didn't look away for even a moment. Whoa! The brothers under the stage were in an uproar as they kept shouting, Big brother Jiusheng, I never thought that you wouldn't flirt with girls, but you would be so professional when it comes to flirting with girls. That's right, that's right. This is the first time I've attended a wedding since I became the Hell's Emissary. Ming-Si looked at them, and his lips curled into a faint smile. The newlyweds can exchange rings, and then, before he could finish his sentence, a group of people below the stage shouted in unison, Kiss, kiss, kiss. Chapter 1800. Du Jiusheng married Luo Qinshan like this. With Ming-Si's permission, he invited all his friends and family to witness their love. Based on what? Based on what? Based on what? She wasn't willing. She really wasn't willing. After being with him for over 100 years, they spent every lonely day in the same study. They received every dead person. They might be evil, but they might be kind. Looking at the people coming and going, and the flowers blooming and withering, there was an indescribable feeling. It was a kind of irreplaceable company. But this irreplaceable feeling only existed in her. Du Jiusheng didn't have it. When he knew that his love tribulation would appear this year, he went to find Ming-Si and softly said, "I never believe in this, and I won't fall in love with anyone." But when Luo Qingxuan appeared in the library, he changed. Moreover, he changed without any reason. The thing that left the deepest impression on her was the cherry blossoms on his desk. Although he looked calm, he had secretly given her an envelope. It was probably from that time. Du Jiusheng completely belonged to another person. He wasn't her partner. It was unknown how much wine she drank, but Hong Yu swayed as she walked onto the street. There was a cold wind that blew at her sore brain. Wine doesn't make you drunk, but you get drunk. Young Miss Hong Yu, please wait. Suddenly, there was an enchanting voice that came from behind her. There was a smile of deep meaning on the red lips as it looked at her back and said, "I can feel a strong hatred from you. Is it because of love?" Hong Yu narrowed her eyes and suddenly turned around as the ring on her right hand glowed with a dark red light. She gave a cold snort and said, "A trivial undead actually appeared in front of the messenger of hell. I'm afraid you really don't want to live." "Ha ha 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 ha." Jin Rongfeng laughed. "The king of hell sign has come down. Your Ming-Si can't do anything to me. I still have 7 days, and the strongest me will help you kill your love rival. Could it be that this isn't an exciting thing for you?" His tone was very frivolous, and his eyes were red like blood. His body was gradually producing a stench, and no amount of perfume could cover up the smell of a corpse. Even so, Hong Yu still hesitated when she saw how disgusting Jin Rongfeng was. She knew very well that she wanted Luo Qingxuan to disappear from this world forever. She wanted to die. This kind of terrible thought kept appearing in her mind, so much so that she longed for it. "What do you want me to do?" She gritted her teeth and slowly lowered her right hand. The ring that used to be like a sacred god was no longer shining. As a messenger of hell, she had to work with an undead. Furthermore, this undead was a vengeful spirit. "It's simple." Jin Rongfeng shrugged and said, "Luo Qingxuan has already been cursed by me. As long as you help me put something in her room, I can kill her effortlessly." As soon as he finished speaking, he took out a black pearl from his pocket and placed it in his palm. He said, "This is a pearl made from my soul. In a few hours, I can absorb all of her spiritual energy." Soul pearl. Hong Yu frowned. Her right hand trembled as she took the pearl from Jin Rongfeng's hand. She was a little nervous. Even though she was nervous, she already had an answer in her heart. Chapter 1801. Jin Rongfeng and Hong Yu's transaction went very smoothly, and Luo Qingxuan and Du Jiusheng's wedding also went very smoothly. The new house was a pink paradise that he had spent an entire day building. Because she said that since she was his disciple, she was still a child. He would always remember the sparkle in her eyes when she said this, as well as the spoiled tone in her voice. That seemed to be her first time, acting spoiled to him. How about it? Du Jiusheng took her in a princess hug, and his deep eyes were filled with pampering. He softly kissed her forehead and said, "Do you like it?" Luo Qingxuan pursed her lips and said with a faint smile, I'll give you 11 points. I'm not afraid of you being arrogant if it's an extra point." He softly patted her head, and with a wave of his right hand, the lights in the room were instantly lit up. After that, he revealed a frustrated look as he asked, "Why aren't you surprised that your husband is so powerful?" Actually, he already wanted to ask this question. As a messenger of hell, he looked good, but he could turn the clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. He could do all the things that normal people couldn't do. Spiritual energy illusions, teleportation, he could do all of them. But the strange thing was, his wife never revealed a surprised expression. It was as if all of this was very normal in her eyes, as if she had once possessed such an ability. Surprised? Luo Qingxuan's lips curled into a faint smile as she said, "Why should I be surprised? What was there to be surprised about? She didn't just call the wind and rain before. She had the following skills: teleportation, telekinesis, space, and time freeze. It seems like my wife has seen many things." Du Jiusheng gave a soft laugh as he gently placed her on the bed. There was a faint floral scent in the air, and the thousands of petals outside the window fell down one by one. Her eyes trembled a little nervously, and a blush appeared on her cheeks. The blush spread to her ears just like that. Of course I've seen many things. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and looked out the window. Look. There are so many petals. Super beautiful. Woo. Before her voice fell, Du Jiusheng's kiss covered the sky. With a gentle, lingering, and slightly cold aura, it surrounded her in layers. She could feel her heart pounding, and the blood in her heart was boiling. This was Du Jiusheng, the Du Jiusheng who had protected her for 2 lifetimes and lost 2 lifetimes for her. Are you afraid? He gently planted a kiss on her forehead, his eyes filled with deep affection as he looked at her. At this moment, she seemed to be able to completely feel his love. It was as if he was using all of his life to love her deeply. Not. Luo Qingchen looked into his deep eyes and said, I'm powerful. You don't need to be afraid. What was she saying? After saying this, there was an indescribable regret in his heart. Could she casually say this kind words? Where was the girl? Was this girl? Du Jiusheng heard this, and his lips curled into a faint smile. He said with an enlightened look, That's good. He was afraid that she wouldn't be able to adapt. After all, in his eyes, she was still a baby. I'm not afraid, but I'm nervous. Chapter 1802. Hollow Jade, the night insects chirping. This was probably the most beautiful moment of her life, going from being young to being happy. Even if she knew that there was a mountain in front of her that she couldn't cross, this night could make her drown in it forever. Han, you came to the library again 3 days later. Du Jiusheng was going to city to pick up the 30 people who died in the avalanche. He wasn't in S City. Luo Qingchen didn't know that Hong Yu was here, since there were many ways for the Hell Messenger to not be discovered by humans. However, she could see danger approaching, but this time, the image in her premonition was particularly blurry. Moreover, for some reason, she could vaguely hear the cry of a baby. It came from a very, very far place, but it was very clear. What's wrong with sister-in-law? Her face doesn't look good. Lan Fan raised his right hand and waved it in front of her. Luo Qingshun closed her eyes and wiped the sweat off her forehead. I can see it. What? Lan Fan was surprised as he immediately said, I'll call Big Brother and have him come back. Let me think about it. She took a deep breath as a faint sparkle appeared in her eyes. He should be severely punished for leaving his post. She couldn't help thinking of how he left his post last time. He must have been punished. Lan Fan gave a sigh. Actually, I'm not too clear, but the rules are very strict. Big Brother never talks about this, so I'm not too clear on specifics. Let's wait for him to come back. Luo Qingchen slightly knit her brows. I won't take a single step out of here in the next few days. It should be fine. I won't go out either. Lan Fan revealed a sunny smile. Relax. Big Brother and Yi Mu aren't here. I'll protect sister-in-law. Night gradually came. There was a black bead on her bedside table, but she didn't notice it at all. She had a very strange dream. There was a young boy in the dream who looked to be around 5 or 6 years old, with a pair of familiar eyes that were as deep as the sea. He gently held her hand and looked at her with a sincere expression. I will protect you. I will protect you forever. Bang! A loud noise broke her dream. She felt weak all over, and even breathing was difficult. The evil crushing jade in the 4 corners of the room emitted a large amount of blue light, and the entire library began to shake. Lan Fan rushed upstairs with all his might and shouted, Sister Qingshun! Sister-in-law Qingshun! Luo Qingshun leaned against the bed. She wanted to speak, but she didn't even have the strength to speak. It was as if all the energy in his body had been sucked dry in an instant, and he felt suffocated. She tried to breathe, but she couldn't feel any oxygen entering her body. Why? What was the reason? If Jean Rongfeng had gone near the library, she should have been able to sense it. Moreover, how could he have gone near a room with broken shoes and precious jade? Bang! In the next second, the door of the room was slammed open. Lan Fan glanced at the pale and weak Luo Qingchen. He rushed forward and gritted his teeth. Can you still walk? Luo Qingchen pursed her lips, and her clear eyes were slightly bloodshot. She used all her strength to shake her head. This was the first time she didn't understand how she died. She only felt that her head was very heavy and her breathing was very heavy. Chapter 1803. Jean Rongfeng's voice sounded in her ears with an enchanting voice that shocked her soul. In a trance, she seemed to see everything that happened 600 years ago. The previous host was the emperor's most beloved princess, and Du Jiusheng was the youth that everyone loved. The previous host liked him, Jean Rongfeng liked him, and Han Yu also liked him, but only the previous host had the right to like him. Jean Rongfeng and Han Yu didn't like him at all. But Han Yu still liked him and used all kinds of methods to talk to him. It was a pity that no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't surpass the previous host. Could it be because of her status? She didn't accept it. Her jealousy made her want to take revenge on the previous host. She wanted her to be a villain and wanted her to die. Therefore, she made a series of plans to kill Lu Qi Duo and kill Jean Rongfeng's family of 58. 600 years ago, on Jean Rongfeng's last day in prison, the previous host was sick and had Hong Yu ask the emperor to take back the imperial decree. Even being sick was part of Hong Yu's plan. Her mind was in chaos and it became harder to breathe. When she thought she was about to die, her stomach suddenly jumped and the feeling of weakness slowly disappeared. She instantly opened her eyes and clutched her chest, gasping for breath. How is this possible? How is this possible? Jean Rongfeng looked at Luo Qingshen, who was about to die, in disbelief, but she suddenly came back to life. There was no aura of Du Jiusheng around, but she woke up like this. At that moment, there was a pung sound coming from the bedside drawer. The black bead rolled down, and all of the black gas disappeared. Impossible, impossible! Jean Rongfeng screamed like a madman. He was on the verge of going berserk. Luo Qingshen narrowed her eyes, and her body slowly recovered. She felt a warm feeling in her stomach that kept giving her strength. She had never felt this kind of feeling since before. What do you want to do? Lan Fan stood in front of her and looked at her with a vigilant look. Just how did you come in? This library had been established for many years, but he had never seen a soul come in without the help of a messenger of hell, not to mention a soul that had been dead for 100 years. Of course, I have the help of an expert. Jean Rongfeng forced himself to calm down. He looked at Luo Qingshen and smiled. Either you come with me obediently, or don't blame me for sending this kid to hell. The help of an expert? Luo Qingshen's cold eyes narrowed, and a trace of disdain flashed through her eyes. She chuckled. Hong Yu, right? Only when Hong Yu, who was also a messenger of hell, came to the library, Du Jiusheng didn't notice her. She could smoothly come to her room and put the unknown thing there. It seemed that the light of sin had never dissipated, even though 600 years had passed. You're pretty smart. Jean Rongfeng smiled coldly. His eyeballs were already turning red and purple. It was probably the end of his lifespan. He had already entered a state where he was neither human nor noble. Luo Qingshan frowned slightly. She put her right hand under the bed and took out a long sword she bought at the market. She narrowed her cold eyes and said, "But you are very stupid." He laughed coldly and said, "You want to turn the tables with a broken sword, and you say I'm stupid. You can't be scared silly, right?" Chapter 1804. What do you mean? Jean Rongfeng heard this, and his dark red and purple eyes narrowed. He glared at her with a determined gaze. It's too late to be afraid of death now. Unhumph. Luo Qingshan narrowed her cold eyes, and her lips curled into an extremely cold smile. Could it be that you're not familiar with Hong Yu? Hong Yu? Jean Rongfeng narrowed his eyes, feeling a bit confused. When he saw the Hell's emissary, he felt that she was a bit familiar, but it was just a bit. After all, in these 600 years, he had seen too many people. Even if he had seen her before, it wasn't strange. But why did Luo Qingshan specially mention this person? She was the true main character 600 years ago. Luo Qingshan looked at Hong Yu, who was slowly walking in with a cold look in her eyes. As expected, even if time passed, things changed. The darkness and sin in one's heart would never be erased. Venomous slander. Hong Yu walked over step by step, finally standing firmly by Jean Rongfeng's side. She looked up and said, "Why haven't you killed her yet? She will be back soon." "You're right." Jin Rongfeng's eyes turned cold. He looked at Luo Qingshun and said, "It's a pity that no matter what you say, I won't believe a single word." As soon as his voice fell, a mass of black qi instantly attacked in her direction. Luo Qingshun pushed Lan Fan aside and wanted to block this mass of black energy with her sword. But she didn't know that this power was even stronger than when she fought Jin Rongfeng. She felt a sweetness in her mouth as she spat out a mouthful of blood. "You want to stop me with a broken iron sword? Aren't you overestimating yourself?" He gave a cold laugh and gathered all his strength to attack Luo Qingshun, muttering, "Die! Xiao, xiao, xiao." A blue light appeared in front of her. Luo Qingshun could feel the blue light in her right hand becoming brighter. What really dazzled her was Du Jiusheng and the blue glowing netherworld sword in his hand. "Jiusheng." Scarlet Moon looked at the sword in disbelief and stood there in shock. This was the netherworld sword, the divine sword of the underworld. The sword that even Ming-Si hadn't touched was actually in Du Jiusheng's hands. Heaven and earth, demons and monsters, ghosts and ghosts and the curse of the netherworld. Du Jiusheng narrowed his eyes, and there wasn't a trace of warmth in his deep eyes. He looked at Jin Rongfeng in front of him and said softly, "I swear on my eternal death. Jiusheng, don't." Du Jiusheng. Han Yue and Luo Qingshun opened their mouths at the same time, but they couldn't move at all. The extremely strong blue light was like a protective barrier that protected Luo Qingshun bit by bit. The netherworld sword in his hand stabbed towards Jin Rongfeng. The blue light penetrated his chest and spread out bit by bit. He was in pain, but his smile was still as bright as ever. Memories of the past appeared in front of his eyes, and there was the smell of blood and corpses in the air. "Actually, if I knew that I would use your life to exchange for mine, I might have given up." His voice was filled with self-ridicule as he tightly held Du Jiusheng's netherworld sword. "Why? Why do you like her so much?" Chapter 1805. When all the lives came to an end, when all the stories came to an end, he saw a man's eyes filled with despair and a woman's eyes filled with despair. As it turned out, nothing would change. Du Jiusheng used the netherworld sword to take care of Jin Rongfeng before being brought back to hell by Ming-Si. Before leaving, he only needed an hour to talk to Luo Qingshun alone. This was a parting that didn't seem sad, but it was a parting that was sad to the bones. Luo Qingshun looked into his eyes and could feel that Du Jiusheng was about to leave, leaving forever. "Will you blame me?" There was a faint blue glow in his right hand as he softly touched her face. Luo Qingshun's tears fell like rain when he spoke. She was the one who couldn't protect herself. She could deeply feel her own powerlessness in every special plane. She shook her head and wanted to speak, but he kissed her lips. The kiss was a bit cold. "Don't blame me, all right?" Du Jiusheng looked in her clear eyes, and his lips curled into a pampering smile. "This is the best way to protect you and our child." Luo Qingshun was stunned as a surprised look appeared in her eyes. She suddenly thought of that dream, thinking of that childish and cold voice on the verge of death. So that was her child. But where will you go? Luo Qingshun looked up as her tears fell down drop by drop. "To a very far place, but I can still protect you." He really didn't want to see her cry. Every time she cried, there would be strange scenes that would appear in his mind. That kind of sad, that kind of heartbreaking scene. "I don't want you to protect me." She desperately shook her head. "I just want you to live well, no matter where you live. Live, live, live." "Fool." He chuckled and kissed her eyes gently. "Don't worry about me. Am I not in front of you now? You don't understand. You don't understand." Luo Qingshun looked at her and choked. "You don't understand what happened between us in the past. You don't understand how you left me in the past." How could he understand that every time they parted, she would be the only one left? How could he understand that the one left behind would always be the one who suffered the most? Because she had to bear two sets of love and two sets of longing. I know, hearing her hoarse voice from crying, his eyes reddened unconsciously. The tear that he once thought he would never have fell. Sparkling and translucent, it carried his eternal love. I'm not talking about 600 years ago. I know. Du Jiusheng gently took her in his embrace and softly patted her back as he muttered, "Did you forget? I am the emissary of hell." As soon as his voice fell, his right hand gave a sigh. There was a light blue light that surrounded his palm, and the Qin character on his palm lit up. He slowly took her right hand and said in a soft voice beside her ear with a gentle smile, "I've always wanted to know what happened between the two of us in the past." He wanted to know the memories that belonged to them more than anyone else. Luo Qingqian's heart skipped a beat as large amounts of memories filled her blank mind. Chapter 1806. All the memories flashed in her mind bit by bit, bringing with them a bit of sweetness and a bit of sadness. Life is lost. Life is rich. Wishing for a moment of youth, blooming the trees. Now the youth was still there, but the youth had passed away. Whether it is the previous life or this life. This should be the final ending between me and her. The scene changed. He was the big brother, and she was the little sister. But he was still Du Jiusheng, and she was still Luo Qingqian. The cause of the previous life, the effect of the future. In the first life of the time ring, you died for me. In the second life of the time ring, I waited for you to come back. He had said before, kissing her in the morning and dying in the evening, that was enough. And now, it was already their third lifetime. Finally this time, he didn't die in her arms. However, such a separation was even more heartbreaking. So from the past until now, I've always loved you this much. Du Jiusheng softly stroked her cheek, but I still feel that the current Du Jiusheng loves Luo Qingqian more. Since the first day he became the Hell's Messenger, he didn't think that there would be anyone he liked. He was an ice-cold person with no lover, no friends, and no memories. Even his name was given to him by Ming Si. He always felt that everything in this world had nothing to do with him. He always felt that he would live a boring existence in this world for thousands of years. Until Luo Qingqian appeared and made him overturn everything. There was a strange feeling of wanting to stay by her side, spending every day with her. He pursed his lips in a proud manner and said with a faint smile, "Because I can't let my past self steal the limelight." Du Jiusheng. Her eyes trembled and her voice was choked with sobs. Her tears covered her eyes as she looked at him. "Will you live? Will you live well?" No matter where, it was fine as long as he lived. It didn't matter if he wasn't by her side. It didn't matter if he didn't protect her. It didn't matter if he forgot about her. As long as he lived, it was fine as long as he lived. He nodded lightly and said in a especially doting tone, "I won't let you worry. No matter how difficult it is, I will live on." As soon as his voice fell, he glanced at the time hanging on the wall and gently touched her cheek. "I'm leaving." Then, Luo Qingqian took a deep breath, wiped away the tears on her face, and said to him, "Then you hug Qingqian. I will take the baby and wait for you to come back, whether in this life or the next." This child's appearance might have been an accident, or it might have been fate, but in the end, it would become the deepest bond in their lives. He kissed her forehead and hugged her tightly. He patted her back and said, "Good girl, I just can't bear to part with you." Du Jiusheng would never understand that when he said this, Luo Qingqian's tense emotions instantly collapsed. She almost fell into his arms and burst into tears. Sorrowful cries filled the entire library. It was as if everyone who passed by could feel the desolation within. Their love had never had any hesitation, and there had never been any betrayal. But each time, they could only choose to leave because that was the best protection for each other. She would never forget the day he left her. The sky was filled with snow, and all the flowers bloomed that brightly. It was like the world was sad because of their parting and moved by their love. Chapter 1807. After Du Jiusheng left, she slept for 3 days and 3 nights. There were many scenes in her dream, a sea of flames and an ice-cold mountain range. This seemed to be the last layer of hell. There were ghosts everywhere, and ghost flames filled the sky. The youth was covered in blood, and there was a strange coldness in his deep eyes. What was he bitterly holding on for? Some people said that he was trying to prove his strength, and some said that he was trying to protect the people he loved. But only he knew that he was doing this for the obsession in his heart. An eternal obsession that had lasted for 10,000 years. After Du Jiusheng left, Ming-Si came to find her once. Luo Qingshun thought that Du Jiusheng's matter would take a turn for the better, but she never thought that Ming-Si would tell her that Hong Yu had escaped. As the messenger of hell, Hong Yu had disappeared in the 10,000 Ghost Cave, so Ming-Si felt that she would come to find her. 10,000 Ghost Cave? What kind of place is that? Luo Qingshun slightly knit her brows, looking a bit confused. After all, this was the 21st century. This kind of fantasy-like place was a bit hard to adapt to. This is a place that humans can't see, but it is certain that her disappearance is related to Jiusheng. There was a faint Li Guang in Ming-Si's eyes. He looked at him and said, Jiusheng has paid such a price for the safety of you and your child. We can't let Hong Yu take advantage of this. Unhumph. Luo Qingshun couldn't help giving a chuckle. She shook her head and muttered, Ming-Si's words are quite interesting. What can I use to protect myself? Using my bare hands to deal with a messenger of hell with a spell? If it was you, you wouldn't be able to do it either. Actually, Luo Qingshun had an indescribable grievance in her heart. Du Jiusheng did all this just for her and her child's safety. If the people of hell allowed a messenger of hell to remain in the mortal world, it would be a threat to her life. Don't worry, we will find her as soon as possible. Ming-Si looked at her with faint eyes, and there was an indescribable feeling in his heart. After all, he had been the witness to their marriage. After all, Du Jiusheng was his best subordinate. As Ming-Si, there were some things that he couldn't change, so he could only do his best. I hope so. Luo Qingshun looked away and tried to control her emotions. Her eyes flickered as she asked, Is he okay? The moment she asked this question, she could feel her heart skip a beat. He wanted to hear the answer, but he didn't dare to hear it. He was deeply afraid that this answer would cause her to break down instantly. Relax, he is Du Jiusheng, Ming-Si said with a chuckle. 100 lifetimes, endless reincarnation, he has never been afraid. That's good. Luo Qingshun nodded slightly, letting the tears in her eyes flow into her heart. After a while, she looked at Ming-Si and said, I hope you can find Hong Yu as soon as possible. During this time, I will use all my strength to protect myself and my child. Okay, I'll do it as soon as possible. Thank you. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips with a faint light in her eyes. She touched her belly with her right hand and said, I have to go to the hospital, so I won't see you off. Be careful on the road. Ming-Si looked at Yi Mu, standing not far away, and said, As for the princess guard from 600 years ago, I might have to bring him back. I'm not going back. Yi Mu heard this and immediately charged forward to look at Ming-Si. I want to stay here to protect Qingchen. Chapter 1808. Sir Ming-Si, I know that this is very difficult, but I can leave without you. Ming-Si glanced at him, and his eyebrows moved slightly. But all your punishments will be borne by your parents who just passed away in a car accident, or rather, the parents of this body of yours. Yi Mu was surprised as his eyes filled with difficulty. He silently looked at Luo Qingshun and wanted to say something, but he was cut off by Luo Qingshun. Go back. Luo Qingshun shook her head and said, Even if you stay, you aren't Hong Yu's match. But I can't leave you alone. I'm not alone. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips into a faint smile. I have a baby. She believed that she had the power to always protect him. In the end, Luo Qingshun still sent Yi Mu away. He had been in the mortal world for too long. It must be very hard for him to wander around. That knight who had protected her for 600 years, she couldn't rely on him anymore. Without knowing why, since Du Jiusheng and Yi Mu left, the library that was filled with people all day suddenly became deserted. There were times when she couldn't see a single person at all. Lan Fan said that those people weren't people to begin with. They were ghosts. However, when they were in the library, as humans, they could also see the souls of the dead. Luo Qingshun thought about it and felt that it was quite right. At the same time, in the 10,000 Ghost Cave, Hong Yu used an entire 7 months to absorb the souls of ghosts, finally turning from a messenger of hell into a 600-year-old evil spirit. At this moment, she was several times stronger than Jean Rongfeng. Of course, she also met a partner, the strongest ghost of the 10,000 Ghost Cave, the Headless Ghost. What made him different from the others was that his head was clipped to the waist pocket of his trousers, which made him look abnormally scary. I never understood. In the eyes of us ghosts, you are a high-up messenger of hell. Why do you want to become a ghost? The Headless Ghost stuck out his tongue and wanted to lick Hong Yue, but she jumped away immediately. I advise you not to provoke me, otherwise you will not have a good end. Red Moon's dark purple eyes stared at her, and his whole body exuded a strong, killing intent. Sister, my sister, I saw that you were too beautiful and couldn't resist my desire. Headless Ghost quickly cleared his throat and said, "Don't be angry. If you want to kill anyone, I'll go through fire and water for you." Hong Yue narrowed her eyes and said, "I want to kill a human." "Yo, a human?" The Headless Ghost laughed and said, "She's just a human. Any ghost from the 10,000 Ghost Cave can take her life. Why do you have to go through so much trouble? What do you know?" Hong Yu gritted her teeth and said, "That library has already been sealed. The ghosts of your 10,000 Ghost Cave were caught by the messengers of hell before they could even approach." She gave a snort and black energy came out of her right hand. As for why I changed from messenger of hell to a ghost, it's because each messenger of hell has a specific location in the underworld. As long as I'm still a messenger of hell, underworld will know no matter where I go. Then she wouldn't even have a chance to hurt Luo Qingchun. Since it was like this, she would rather not have the identity of a messenger of hell. That woman was actually pregnant with Du Jiusheng's child. What qualification did she have to be pregnant with her child? He was so high and mighty, while she was so lowly and lowly. She had to personally kill their child and slowly torture Luo Qingchun to death. Chapter 1809. The winter snow gradually melted with the arrival of spring, and the snow finally stopped after a few months. This was the most incredible year for humans, because the snow in S-City had lasted for 6 months. When she opened the window, Luo Qingchun could feel the warm wind blowing across her face, bringing with it a touch of warmth. Without knowing why, she was a bit greedy for this feeling. It was like he was right beside her, that kind of warmth. Her and Lan Fan's days suddenly changed from the fantasy world of ghosts to a normal world. There were no more strange things happening. Their days passed peacefully like water. But only she knew that everything wasn't over, because the Red Moon hadn't been found yet. Ming Si hadn't appeared at all. He said that if he appeared, it meant that the Red Moon had been found. If he didn't appear, she had to be vigilant at all times. Actually, she had always been vigilant, not only for herself, but also for her most important baby. Ko. Come in. Luo Qingchun took a deep breath and let her lips curl. She didn't want to be depressed. She knew that it wasn't good for the baby. Normally speaking, the only person who could come looking for her at this time was Lan Fan. "Sister-in-law, we're having seafood porridge today. Come down quickly." Lan Fan held a large bouquet of lilies and placed it in front of her window. "Sister Lin made wild black chicken soup today. You have to drink 2 more bowls later. It's good for my little nephew." After saying this, he didn't forget to gently touch Luo Qingchun's belly that had been pregnant for 9 months. There was still a week before the due date. Du Jiusheng wasn't here, so Lan Fan felt that he had the duty to take care of Luo Qingchun for him. After all, if it wasn't for him, perhaps many things would have ended differently. "I know," Luo Qingchun said with a soft laugh. "It's been hard on you during this time." It's not hard. Lan Fan awkwardly scratched his head. "I feel that I should help Big Brother." He and Luo Qingchun were stunned at the same time as a trace of sadness appeared in their eyes. Luo Qingchun came back to her senses faster than him and said with a sweet smile, if he knew, he would definitely be very happy. "Sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned it." Lan Fan's smile disappeared as he apologized to her with a serious expression. He knew what kind of feelings Luo Qingchun and Du Jiusheng had. He also knew that she looked happy these days purely because of their child. However, no one knew what her inner world was really like. "No, I should have mentioned it." Luo Qingchun looked down, and her lips curled into a faint smile. Otherwise, I don't know who could be tied to him. At least you and I know that he really existed. Sister-in-law, Ching Chun. Lan Fan said with a bright smile, Big Brother is lucky to have met you. Whether it was the first life, second life, or third life of Du Jiusheng, whether he had memories or not, his love for her had never changed. It was that passionate and that persistent. In the end, he placed himself in a place like a prison of death to exchange for her safety. But Du Jiusheng, and she never knew that the real danger was slowly approaching. Hong, you had always been waiting for her to leave the library to personally kill her. Chapter 1810. In October, the first heavy snow fell in S City. It was snowing heavily and the sky was dark and gloomy. This kind of weather made Luo Qingxian feel inexplicably uneasy. She kept feeling that something was going to happen. Lan Fan accompanied her into the delivery room and kept encouraging her, telling her that she had to work harder. She nodded lightly and looked at the ceiling nervously. This was the first time she had experienced such a stage. Something that had never happened in the previous planes had happened in this special plane. What made her feel even more strange was that the system did not appear after informing her that she had completed the mission. She thought that everything was about to end. Little did she know that it was only the final battle. Lying on the bed, the voices of the doctors and nurses kept ringing in her ears. She could not hear them clearly. She only knew that they kept saying, "Do your best. Do your best. Do your best." Finally, after 5 hours, she heard the sound of a child crying. Her heart, which had been hanging in the air, finally settled down. The snow outside the window was still falling heavily, but the flowers of spring quietly bloomed the moment the child arrived. Wow, he's so good looking. His eyes, his nose. I've been delivering babies for more than 30 years. This is the first time I've seen such a cute baby. He's really good looking. No wonder his mother is a beauty. It's normal to be good looking. The chattering sounds rang in her ears. They were all praises for the child. Actually, she wanted to say, his father is even better looking. Not only was he the most good-looking man in the world, but he was also the most outstanding man in the world who treated her the best. It was a pity that he had gone to a very, very far place. If he had seen the birth of this child with his own eyes, that 10,000-year-old iceberg face would have revealed a faint smile. At this moment, she could not help but recall that young man's faint smile. So good-looking, so heart-palpitating. Bang, bang. Little did she know that just as she was immersed in her memories, a loud noise came from the long corridor of the hospital. The lights on the ceiling were on the verge of falling. The entire hospital building began to shake violently. What's wrong? What happened? The nurse holding the child was a little nervous. After all, it was a newborn child. She was afraid that something would happen to him. In an instant, Luo Qingchun could feel her heart beating violently. She could clearly feel that danger was approaching. The next second, she suddenly sat up on the bed. She half closed her eyes and murmured, "Hongyue, why are you awake?" The doctor who delivered her was stunned. He hurriedly said to the nurse beside him, "Take the mother downstairs first. I think it's an earthquake." "It's not an earthquake." Luo Qingchun slightly knit her brows as she slowly clenched her right fist. She glanced at the startled nurse and said, "Give me the child. Go as far as you can." "What are you talking about? We are medical staff." "How? If you don't want to die." Luo Qingchun looked at the light blue barrier outside the window and said, "She is a ghost from the 10,000 Ghost Cave, and she's here for me." It seemed that Red Moon had really gone to the 10,000 Ghost Cave as Ming Si had said, and she had turned from a messenger of hell into a ghost. Chapter 1811. Luo Qingchun quickly took the child from the nurse's hands and protected her behind her. At that moment, she suddenly understood why Du Jiusheng did everything he could to protect her heart. Because if there was someone worth protecting, he had to protect it. Yo. Hongyu, I found her. The headless ghost walked around the door twice. Only his head was in the room and his body was outside. The ghosts from the 10,000 Ghost Cave that weren't in the same dimension could appear here, It meant that Hong Yu had used a special method to separate this world from the original world. It was to make it hard for Ming Si to find her. Luo Qingshun, I've waited for this day for a long time. Hong Yu was wearing a dark red robe, and there was a purple glow in her eyes, as well as a black aura coming from her body. She was completely different from the Hell's Messenger from before. She was carved from the same mold as Jin Rongfeng. I'm afraid that even if you wait this long, you won't be able to find her. Luo Qingshun looked up with a cold look in her eyes. Luo Qingshun didn't know if she could protect her child, but she knew that unless she didn't die, her child wouldn't be hurt at all. Luo Qingshun, do you think that you still have him by your side? Hong Yu bit her lip as her eyes misted over as she stared at her. He was already killed by you. Do you know that? As long as she thought of Du Jiusheng holding the Netherworld sword, looking like he was about to die, she felt uncomfortable in her chest. A person that she admired so much had actually fallen into the underworld for such a lowly human. It wasn't worth it in her eyes, but Du Jiusheng was willing to risk everything to protect her. She hated her, a hatred that came from her bones. She wanted to eat her flesh and drink her blood. You don't know who killed him? Luo Qingshun narrowed her cold eyes and said with a taunting smile, You were the one who killed Lu Qi Duo 600 years ago, and you were the one who wiped out Jin Rongfeng's family 600 years ago. You don't remember this, right? Ha ha ha. She snorted coldly and then laughed crazily. Do you think I'll believe you? Hong Yu slowly raised her right hand, and a mass of black gas filled her palm. She looked at her and said, I am a person with no memory. I don't believe a word you said. Besides, so what if it is? She paused for a moment before continuing, I don't care. If you want to go to hell, so what if I accompany you to hell? As soon as she finished speaking, she waved her right hand, and a ball of black qi quickly attacked in her direction. She gritted her teeth and instantly hugged her child, using her back to withstand the attack. In fact, she knew that as a human, it was impossible for her to withstand the attack of a 600-year-old malicious ghost. Moreover, she knew that Hong Yu was several times stronger than Jin Rongfeng. But she had to protect her baby. What she didn't know was that a golden light flashed behind her back, and the ring finger of her right hand turned into a very familiar ring. Exquisite ring. She almost cried out in surprise, the fingertips of her right hand unconsciously trembling slightly. What followed was the sound of the system. This was her first time feeling that the mechanical voice was so comforting. Reporting to the host, the system is back. Reporting to the host, all powers have been activated. Chapter 1812. The snow seemed to have stopped, and a gust of cold wind blew through the hospital's curtains. The air was cold, without the slightest bit of warmth. Tisk. Headless Ghost shrugged and looked at Scarlet Moon. You can't do it. You can't even kill a human. Scarlet Moon clenched her teeth and fiercely glared at Headless Ghost, her hand once again gathering a mass of black gas. This time, Luo Qingshun did not have her back to Scarlet Moon. She gently raised her right hand, and the exquisite ring's golden light surrounded the baby. The next second, she instantly took out the Phoenix Dance sword from her portable space and coldly looked at Scarlet Moon. Kill me. You probably won't have the chance in this lifetime. She half squinted her eyes, her whole body exuding an imposing aura, exuding a cold air like ice. Scarlet Moon heard this and coldly snorted, her eyes filled with disdain. It's this broken sword again. Do you think a sword bought on the street can stop me and hurt me? Her voice was very sarcastic, looking at Scarlet Moon with an attitude of absolute superiority, high above, with a look of victory. On the other hand, Luo Qingshun's eyes were as calm as water, almost without the slightest ripple. She slowly raised the Phoenix Dance sword. The corner of her mouth outlined a faint sneer. Whether it hurts or not, we'll know after trying. In a flash, the Phoenix Dance sword in her hand seemed to feel the anger of its master. An extremely powerful golden light flashed and directly attacked in the direction of Scarlet Moon. Hong Yu gave a cold snort. She raised her right hand and didn't use any strength to block Luo Qingshun's attack. She just stood there with a cold smile, watching Luo Qing, Chun hit a stone with an egg. Little did she know, the ancient artifact Phoenix Dance Sword's extremely strong power directly hit Scarlet Moon 10 meters away. She groaned and spat out a mouthful of black blood. Standing on the side of Scarlet Moon, Headless Ghost was directly hit to the center of the wall, his head rolling twice on the ground, constantly rolling his eyes. How? How is this possible? Scarlet Moon clenched her teeth and stood up shakily. She looked at Luo Qingshun with a look of disbelief. She looked at the indifferent face of Luo Qingshun with a look of astonishment, completely shocked. How could a human possess a superpower? How could he defeat her so easily? Why did the sword in her hand give her an inexplicable sense of oppression, making it difficult for her to even breathe? Is that it's not possible? Luo Qingshun narrowed her cold eyes and revealed a cold smile. She looked at Hong Yu with the aura of a queen. Didn't you want to kill me? I'm standing right in front of you. Why can't you kill me? Moon of Luo Qingshun of Scarlet Moon of Blood. Scarlet Moon to attack to Luo of Luo Kingoff of Scarlet Moon. She raised her right hand, and the exquisite ring's golden light directly hit her chest, destroying 3/4 of her soul. Scarlet Moon suddenly took a step back, her whole body in a state of nothingness. The Headless Ghost next to her wanted to take the opportunity to get close to Scarlet Moon, but was directly shattered by the shield of the exquisite ring. Luo Qingshun gave a soft snort as she walked towards Hong Yu step by step. She slowly squatted down and looked at her soul that almost didn't exist before curling her lips into a smile. There's no meaning if you're too weak. No, impossible. Chapter 1813. Even if she hated someone before, she wouldn't humiliate them like this, because she felt that no matter how bad a person was in this world, she would just kill them. There was no need to insult their personality and whip their soul. But Hong Yu was different. If it wasn't for Hong Yu, she could have returned everything she owed Du Jiusheng in this life. She could have peacefully stayed by his side. No matter how time passed, it was the happiest thing for her. But because of Hong Yu, she was separated from him again. They clearly liked each other, but they could never be together. What was the difference between that kind of separation and life and death? Becoming an undead that isn't human or ghost. Are you very happy? Luo Qingshun looked at her like she was looking at Nat. She narrowed her eyes and said, "You really are ugly. You, don't be proud." Hong Yu kept panting, but she didn't forget to stubbornly say, "You think that you can defeat me because you suddenly have power? You think..." Space and time freeze. Her mind turned, and her lips curled into a smile. After that, everything around them froze. The petals outside the window flew in bit by bit, but they were frozen in the air. When this scene completely happened in front of Hong Yue, she was completely stunned. "Do you know what a god is?" Luo Qingshun's voice didn't have a trace of warmth as she looked into her eyes and said, "I am a god." Hong Yu looked at everything around her in a daze. Looking at the frozen world in the air, the defenses in her heart completely collapsed. So she was this weak. Luo Qingshun could really kill her without any effort. In that instant, everything that happened in the past 600 years flashed in front of her eyes. She still loved Du Jiusheng and did all those evil things for him. No, this wasn't a crime. She did out of love. She wasn't wrong. If she met Du Jiusheng before Luo Qingshun in this world, everything would have been different. Luo Qingshun looked at Hong Yu's dazed eyes, looking at the petals outside the window as she muttered, "As long as I appear first, I will definitely be able to move him." "No." Luo Qingshun shook her head and looked at her. "You will never be able to move someone who doesn't love you, because the person Du Jiusheng loves, no matter what kind of world it is still me." Ah! There was a painful scream that echoed in her ears as Hong Yu's soul scattered in front of her. The space and time freeze slowly ended, and the petals that came in through the window fell into her hand. Her eyebrows moved slightly, and a faint smile flashed in her eyes. She looked up at the colorful sky as she muttered, "Du Jiusheng, shouldn't you praise your little wife?" She used her ability to protect her child. As soon as she finished speaking, she could feel the blue words slowly lighting up on her right palm. It was very, very faint, and the word life was faintly discernible. At this moment, she felt her eyes redden and tears almost fell from her eyes. He didn't lie to her. Even if it was hard, he would desperately live in another place just to protect her and their child. Du Jiusheng, Du Jiusheng, why are you always so good? Chapter 1814. The wind of March was always a bit cold. It had been a long time since Hong Yu's soul scattered and everything had finally come to a perfect end. Knock, knock, knock. Lan Fan softly knocked on her door and bought a bunch of baby products. He looked at her with a smile and said, I don't know if it's enough. I'll buy some more if it's not enough. Don't buy any more. Can't you see that the room can't fit anymore? Luo Qingshan gave a soft laugh. She walked beside the crib and gently tapped the baby's forehead. I don't know why, but this child doesn't cause any trouble and I haven't seen him cry at all. Compared to the babies of other families, she felt that her and Du Jio's child was strangely obedient, so obedient that it made people feel warm. Perhaps it's because he knows that it's hard for mommy, so he doesn't cause any trouble. Lan Fan walked forward and gently hugged him. Looking at his big round eyes, there was a faint dark light in them. He couldn't help but say, he really looks like Big Brother. Luo Qingshan said with a nod. Very similar. You still haven't thought of a name for him? Lan Fan looked at her and asked this. He knew that this question was a bit painful for her, since she would think of Du Jiusheng whenever she saw this child. But she had to spend a lot of time with this child, staying by his side every day and night. Luo Qingshan raised her right hand and patted his little head. I've already thought of it. What is it? Nianin, thinking of your eternal peace, not being disturbed by the world, not being troubled by the mortal world. Wah, Lan Fan said. It feels like a very good name. Dunyanin? Right. Actually, this was a thought in her heart for this child and for Du Jiusheng. She didn't wish for every special plane to be a heart-wrenching farewell. She hoped that this child's appearance would bring her peace. Really good. Lan Fan nodded. He looked at the baby in his embrace with a pampering look as he said, Nianin, 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 oh right, Lan Fan. Luo Qingshan glanced at him, her eyes flashing with a touch of Liguan. She said, I'm going to a place in a few days. You have to take care of this child for me. There were some places she had to go and some people she had to meet. No problem. I'm very free these few days. You should go and relax. Lan Fan patted his chest and said, I'll definitely take care of him like a master. Even if it's not just for a few days, you have to take good care of him for me. Luo Qingshan glanced at him reluctantly. Even if I don't come back, please take good care of him. She couldn't bear to part with the child, but she felt that she had a mission to fulfill. If she didn't come back, she would take it that she had let down this child, and she would repay it 1,000 times in her next life, sister-in-law. You, don't scare me. Where are you going? Lan Fan heard her say this and nervously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. We mustn't take things too hard. You have Nian, and there was a bad feeling that filled his body since Luo Qingshan's words were like a farewell. How could I take things too hard? She said with a faint smile. I'm just going to hell. Chapter 1815. After taking care of everything, she said goodbye to Nian and was much quieter than before today. He kept looking at her, as if giving her endless strength. Little Nian, if I can come back, I will bring your father back. Luo Qingshan's lips curled into a gentle smile as she said, He is a very, very good man. He will definitely love you very, very much. Nian seemed to understand what she was saying. He slowly raised his little hand and waved it in front of her, gently grabbing her hair. His big eyes were beautiful, looking very cute. Luo Qingshan grabbed his little hand and rubbed it on her cheek. Then she put the moon glass fan in his cradle and said, Mother will leave this to you. Although I don't know if it will follow you through the cycle of reincarnation, I believe that it will protect you forever. This fan looks so good. How about you give me one too? The moon glass fan is considered a rare divine weapon in this world. I have to thank my system. At least it allows me to leave this thing in the mortal world. Luo Qingshan gave a chuckle and Lan Fan looked at her with a confused look. Treat this as a birthday present for the baby. The system's mechanical voice sounded in her mind, making Luo Qingshan feel strangely at ease. When she stood at the entrance of hell with the phoenix dance sword, she didn't feel any fear at all. Standing in front of her was a group of familiar figures. They had all been Du Jiusheng's friends, and they had all come to her wedding. The one standing in the middle was Misty. He looked at Luo Qingshun for a while before saying with a sigh, "You still came in the end." "Of course I came." Luo Qingshun raised the phoenix dance sword in her right hand as a faint sparkle appeared in her eyes. "I want to see Du Jiusheng. He isn't someone you can see just because you want to." Ming-Si crossed his hands and stood at the entrance of hell as he looked at her. "Go back. This isn't the scene he wants to see. I want to see Du Jiusheng." It was the same words. There was no change at all. Ming-Si narrowed his eyes. Looking at her determined eyes, he knew that it was impossible for her to go back today. In the next second, he sighed softly and said, "After defeating the hall masters of each of the 18 levels of hell, you will be able to reach the unbounded land. There's the person you want to see there." "Thank you." In an instant, Luo Qingshun raised her phoenix dance sword and attacked in the direction of Ming-Si. She didn't hold back at all. She knew that she couldn't hold back because with just a single thought, she might not see Du Jiusheng and might even lose her life here. First floor, second floor, third floor, 18th floor. She had almost entered the realm of killing gods and Buddhas. As long as someone stood in her way, no matter who it was, she would not stay behind. With the phoenix dance sword and the exquisite ring, he had barged into the 18 levels of hell alone just to reach the unbounded land and meet that person. The cold wind of hell blew across her face. She was standing in front of the unbounded land covered in blood, and 3/4 of her soul had been scattered. With each step, it was like being stabbed by a needle, but her heart was strangely filled with joy. When she reached the center of the unbounded land, she held her chest and didn't have the strength to stand up anymore. Chapter 18:16. There was a cold aura in the air, and Luo Qingshun could feel the trembling hands of the person behind her. She closed her eyes and felt exhausted. "But I can't let you go." She bit her lip as a faint liguang appeared in her eyes. She wanted to turn around, but Du Jiusheng stopped her. "Don't turn around." His voice was very light, making it hard for people to hear. But she could feel that he was using all his strength to hold her, and he was holding her tighter and tighter. "Why?" Luo Qingshun slightly knit her brows as she felt her strength leaving bit by bit. The phoenix dance sword in her hand fell to the ground with a dong sound. This time Luo Qingshun didn't listen to him and turned around without any hesitation. But what entered her eyes was a shattered soul. She couldn't even see Du Jiusheng's appearance. She could only feel that it was his soul in front of her. Rather, it was a soul that was pieced together by thousands of pieces. It was like a person's body being pieced together after being cut into pieces. It was too cruel and too shocking. There was an indescribable feeling in her heart at that moment. She felt that letting him live for her was a very cruel thing. "Sorry, don't cry, sorry, be good." He raised his hand to pat her head like before. There was a pampering look in his eyes as he narrowed them. "You don't look good when you cry." Han Long. There was a large whirlpool of thunder in the sky above the unbounded land, as if it was rushing them for the little time they had left. "Quickly leave. I'll protect you as you leave this place." "I don't want to." Luo Qingshun came forward and hugged Du Jiusheng. She softly rubbed against his shattered soul. "Don't let me go. It's been too hard for me to walk to your side." When she said these words, she could feel her eyes reddening unconsciously. Once upon a time, her powers had been sealed, so she couldn't stand by his side without being blocked by tens of thousands of people like now. All the choices she made were compromises, compromises, compromises. But now, she felt that she could stand by his side legitimately, even if she had to betray the whole world. Du Jiusheng saw that she was covered in blood, but there was a determined look in her eyes. He didn't even have the strength to let her go. "I really don't want you to suffer." He chuckled, and a thin layer of mist appeared in his eyes as he said, "But I just can't bear to see you like this. You know that I will agree to anything you say." "Yes." She smiled through her tears and walked forward to sit under the whirlpool. She patted the empty seat beside him and said, "Come and sit." Du Jiusheng teleported to her side and looked at her with a pampering gaze. Breaking into the underworld with a divine weapon, it really is something our Qing Chun would do. Luo Qing Chun looked up, and her lips curled into a proud smile. Of course. Don't you know whose wife I am? Hong Long. There was another strong clap of thunder, and the unbounded land began to tremble. She is my wife. When Du Jiusheng said these words, his eyes were filled with pride. Luo Qing Chen closed her eyes, and her lips curled into a faint smile. She placed a kiss on his cold cheek and said, "The child is very good. Lan Fan will spend all his time with him. You don't need to worry." What is his name? Nianin. As soon as her voice fell, the heavenly thunder fell. Her eyes turned dark, but her heart was very calm. Chapter 1817. It starts with the heart and ends with the head turning white. It's safe to embrace and warm to accompany. It's a pity that I couldn't do it no matter how hard I tried. Du Jiusheng. When I became a messenger of hell, I was a person with no past and no future. Even his name was told to him by Ming Si. He said that he was called Du Jiusheng. He said that this was a very meaningful name that contained his endless thoughts and the meaning of his existence. The first time I saw him, he was summoned by the power of the stars. Each messenger of hell would face a love tribulation after 600 years, and most messengers could pass this love tribulation. But there were a few people who couldn't pass because they didn't listen to Ming Si's advice. This included me. I knew her identity the first time I saw her. She was a very professional and excellent appraiser. Although I felt a strange sense of loss when I learned of her occupation, there was more anticipation. So I gave her a black envelope and decided to accept her application. The red moon kept reminding me that this was a tribulation that I couldn't approach, but I instinctively chose to approach. But I never thought that the day I was looking forward to wouldn't come. Rather, I saw her meet a 600-year-old undead. That was a soul that had wandered the world for 600 years. It was called a malicious ghost. When he wanted to hold Luo Qingchen's hand, I stopped him. This malicious ghost had a special spell. When he held a human's hand, as long as the other person's past life was related to him, he could see the scene of their past life. Although he couldn't see 100% of it, he could see 50% of it. I felt that this malicious ghost called Jin Rong Feng wasn't simple, but I never thought that he would decide our ending. If I knew earlier, I would have used all my methods to kill him instead of waiting for him to use the resentful soul curse. To me, the resentful soul curse was the thing that let her down the most. It was my incompetence that caused her to meet death again and again. But it was a good thing that she could see her own death. It was a kind of foresight ability. I thought about it for a long time, but I couldn't understand how a human could have this kind of ability, unless she wasn't a human at all. She was just a human in this life. Because of the love tribulation, I could feel that she was in danger. There was a faint Qing character on my right hand. It felt like it was fated to be with her. This feeling bloomed in my heart like a flower called loneliness. I knew that I wouldn't be able to escape my love tribulation. I fell in love with her. In just a few days, I fell in love with her. I investigated Jin Rong Feng, but I didn't find any clues. After all, this was something that happened 600 years ago, and I seemed to be the messenger of hell from that time. I didn't know if there was a connection, but my intuition was. At this moment, another undead creature appeared. When he looked at her affectionately, I could feel my heart skip a beat. I felt like I was suffocating. It turned out that when one cared about a person, there were so many mixed feelings. He had the urge to step forward and hold her hand, declaring his sovereignty over her.